This is terrible. Can I get a sound check, Nemo? That's happening right now. I need you to tell me.
It's all being recorded, so checking out the sound.
Yes, we are.
We are live.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking us out.
That's right.
Sharing this show, letting people know.
Sounds good. Good. We have sound.
I have some issue with my monitor.
Hello, everybody. What's your monitor?
It's not loading.
On your computer? Oh, your phone. Well, don't need that to do the show.
We got what we got.
Yep.
As long as we got a sound check.
Mm-hmm.
My hand. There you go. All right. I think we can start.
All right.
Wow.
That's it?
Yeah.
Pretty short.
You know how long it took me just to get this show up? It was crazy.
It was only 2 minutes.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay, well, yeah. It is what it is. You know what? Y'all need to help me invite some people into the show and let them know we're live. And
need more people in the show.
Tell them to check us out. Because, for some reason, I wasn't able to do it today.
Nope.
It's not working out for me.
Maybe they'll jump on.
I don't know. Anyway, let us get on with the show. This is a Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
And you're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPP-LP, Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. We are also sharing all of our past shows, podcast form on kpppfm.com. Tonight, I have a very special show about Brett Kavanaugh in the age of #Metoo, the Metoo movement. Also, the Time's Up movement. I mean, I think that this has been a really historic year in the last couple of years, I would say even, or more, there has been a lot more discussion about sexual assault and rape. And also, we've had, a kind of a shift, a tidal wave of change, at least in some regards, in the handling of sexual assault allegations and rape allegations, and in the way that men are punished for those allegations. And so I thought that we would take a break from our reporting on, people related to the Standing Rock campaign and where they are now, what kinds of shenanigans they're getting up to in policy and in movement building and all sorts of other things. And we will be bringing you a show about what they're doing in disaster relief coming up next here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. But tonight, I want to focus on something that has been kind of gripping the country for weeks now. And I also want to thank the folks who sent me information on articles and asked my opinion or, included me in conversations about how they're coping with this latest outpouring of criticism and or support for victims of sexual assault and rape. It kind of lit a fire under me to talk about this at a time when, as a victim, I can honestly say it's very difficult and triggering to talk about this topic. So I want to turn it over to Duke to have him tell us how you can get a hold of us and send us your information and contact us with your comments and topic ideas. Duke?
Definitely. Yeah, one of the ways is that you can actually give us a call on our message line. It's a message line, so you leave a message. It's 701-566-0917. You can call in and leave a message up to 3 minutes, and we may air it. And a lot of people say don't air it, please. And that's fine. And it's a great way that we can actually hear your voice and we can get back to you. If that's not your thing, emails really works well. It's Duke at kpppfm.com and it's Cindy at kpppfm.com. And also, you can find us on Facebook. On Facebook, you can go to 88.1 FM, or you can go to our Mexi-Can or our People's Press Project page. And also you can go to kpppfm.com. As Cindy said, that's where we keep all of our podcasts. We have been doing YouTube videos of our Facebook videos and putting them on a YouTube playlist under A Mexican Crossing Lines. So it's more in high definition, so it's easier to see on a bigger screen. And also we have it protected because it's on another platform, because Facebook is forever changing their things, and especially things with their Facebook Lives. It's one reason why it's hard to reach a lot of people, because we can't invite like we used to. And we're doing legitimate work. We're a non-profit, non-commercial radio station, 88.1 KPPPLP. On our website, you can look there and read about our history. You can also look at some of our programming. And also, since we're a nonprofit, we raise money from the community, and we raise money from some small grants. And we've been around for, going on 3 years now. And we've been able to survive because we're very low budget, very low key. None of us are getting rich, and we just try to do the best we can with the equipment we have. And we'll take those podcasts and the audio from the actual things you're seeing tonight, and we'll break them down for radio programming so people can hear it in the Fargo-Moorhead area. So we appreciate all the people who get a hold of us, all the material you send us. We have a lot of material. We have a lot of shows lined up. This topic tonight is really important to deal with because we're basically a country in crisis in the sense that we don't know what's going to happen. People are acting, and we're waiting to see what happens. And people are coming out and showing the ugly. That's for sure. People they're putting their feet out and showing their ugly. And we'll show you a little bit of that tonight. And it's for you to decide what you do and what you do to participate in a movement that honors women and believes women. So it's really important for people to listen. And I notice that a lot of times our programming, when we look at the stats on Facebook, tend to reach women. The largest audience is women. So I appreciate that I can be part of this conversation. I'll do my best to represent who I am and try to encourage men to come forward and be a lot stronger for women.
Yes, and we definitely appreciate all of the feedback and the support that you are showing for women who are victims of violence, of oppression, and rape. Okay? Because that's what we're talking about tonight. I have to say, I was also moved by a recent show on John Oliver's Last Week Tonight. And you watched it with me.
Oh, yeah.
The shocking part of that show was the reference to Anita Hill.
Yeah.
And you remember a while back, with regard to the Metoo movement, John Oliver interviewed Anita Hill, who testified against Clarence Thomas at his confirmation hearings to the Supreme Court back in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly when it was. I was a child at the time, but I do remember how striking that was to me to see those Senate confirmation hearings and Anita Brown testifying. I mean, an attorney, an accomplished litigator, and an accomplished woman, and she was speaking in the highest place in the land. She was speaking in front of the Senate in Washington, D.C., under oath. Because, of course, if you testify and lie to the Senate or to a committee hearing like that under oath, you can be charged with crimes against the Congress because you lied to them. So I want to clarify that, because I hear a lot of people saying that, they should have filed a police report, or they should file one now. And if they won't take a police report now, or if somebody doesn't believe them, then they'll be in trouble for lying. They're in trouble for lying to the Congress. They're in trouble if they lie to Congress, and Congress can and does and has taken, action against people that have perjured themselves or lied to them under oath. So don't discount the mere fact that any woman would come forward, because it is definitely on the record, under oath, and you can be charged. These women, including Anita Hill, that came forward, had to be terrified. And also, not just for the backlash against them, but because of the scrutiny, right?
Yes.
They're going to put themselves forward in front of Congress and in front of millions of people watching this all over the country and all over the world. And I have to say, as a young child, as a girl, watching this unfold, having already been at that young age multiple times a victim of sexual assault and molestation, my heart was pierced with anguish, with sorrow. The message I received as a little girl, especially as a little girl of color, is that I don't matter. That my life as a woman does not matter. Not as much as a man's.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's more important for his career to continue. It's more important to protect his future, his reputation, his possibilities in life. And as women, we are called upon ourselves to sacrifice our lives, our careers, our future, in any endeavor that we wish to undertake for men.
Yeah.
Any man, you don't even have to know him. So I thought that Anita Hill was incredibly brave. And I think it's important to remember what she did for all women. And I also think it's incredibly sad that there is nothing that Congress has done to improve the process for women to come and testify against men in the Congress.
in the confirmation hearings.
Which is like a testament to how little they care about women, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, even if you look at how they've handled this, is like, why didn't they prepare? Haven't they been paying attention? The people they're going to interview, that they might have done something in their past, which Kavanaugh has been accused of lying to Congress, like you said, that he has committed a crime. They wouldn't release a whole bunch of information because they claimed it was a national security issue when he worked for Bush, right? And it was like, so they didn't have all the information, and they could have figured out a way to keep it private within the committee. But here they are like, well, we've never done this before. And they did with Anita Hill. The whole idea that they did an FBI investigation only took a couple days. And she still got sent up the river. And, those of you out there that talk about, did you call the police? Did you call the police? That's your white privilege speaking. Also your misogyny speaking. Because look at the stats. Look at what's happened with sexual assault and rape in this country, in the courts. How it's taken years and years and years to actually prosecute rapists. How it moved in the laws that men couldn't rape their wives. Men just couldn't willy-nilly kill people in the streets. People of color. It used to be legal. This stuff has changed because women have been moving forward and taking on the issues, and some men have taken on those issues too in support. So anyone that comes up with their first response to this is that, did she call the police? And if she didn't, she's lying. You're very shallow, you're very defensive, and you're protecting something. You're protecting rape culture. You're doing that. You're protecting violence against women when you even bring that up. If that comes up in your mind, start analyzing and look at the real statistics and look at what really happens to women and look at the way this hearing is going. And you can listen to all the news stories and everybody, pontificating about what it all means, but it's right there, right in front of your face, showing what they're actually doing. So I encourage anyone who hears anyone that says, well, did they call the police? Is there a police report? Report it now. That stuff is off issue, big time.
Thank you for saying that. It's important, especially for men to hear from another man. I believe, and this is something that we have needed to call out for a long time, Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And I sincerely believe this. Rape apologists rape.
Yeah.
Usually.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're defending. They're defending rape. They're defending the right to rape. And usually they're defending their own right to rape.
Exactly.
Remember that hashtag rape apologists rape. Keep it in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And also, rape apologists enable. Because there's a lot of women out there doing it too.
Yeah.
Rape apologists enable. In other words, male or female doesn't really matter. If you're a rape apologist, you're probably a rapist. And if not, but more likely than not, you are. So just know that every time you rape apologize, people are going to look at you sideways from now on, because we're not going to swallow this nonsense any longer that you are just protecting the reputation of a male, that you are just making sure all sides are known, that you want facts, that you want information. None of the people that are calling for all of those things in the Kavanaugh confirmations actually want an investigation done by the FBI. They don't want to have witnesses that these women have said should also be put under oath and investigated so that they can be examined. And of course, if they lie to the Senate, if they lie under oath, they can also be prosecuted.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you something. Look at the parallel investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller of Trump and collusion to hack into the 2016 election, to meddle with the 2016 elections on behalf of Russia. There was a number of people that went before Congress and lied.
Mm-hmm.
And they were investigated by the FBI for lying. Okay? And they were found guilty of lying. So, once again, if we're going to put these people on, under oath, they can be investigated and they should be checked out to make sure that they're, that they're all able to tell the story because this is the confirmation for the highest court in the land.
Yeah.
We're not playing for tiddlywinks here. Even lawyers have to follow a rigorous ethical background check before they cannot have any untoward conduct. If a lawyer gets caught doing drugs or having a DUI, I've seen some on television melt down because they know they're going to lose their license to practice forever. They know that if they do one thing wrong, that's it. You're done practicing law. And in this case, we're talking not just about a judge, but about the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is a lifetime appointment, folks, which means he will probably be on the... He's a white man, so judging by white men expectancies of life, he will probably be on that stand for another 40, possibly even longer years.
Exactly.
That is a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lifetime.
Yep.
And so I think that it bears at least at minimum talking about. Now, another thing that I want to mention about this Anita Hill interview with John Oliver that took place a long time ago on his show. He recently did a show about Brett Kavanaugh and the Senate confirmation hearings, and he played a clip of that interview with Anita Hill that he did not air previously, right at the end of the show. And it was the most disturbing, heartbreaking clip because what he asked her, and he didn't even set it up so you didn't even know what was going to be on the clip. But what he asked her is, if an allegation such as the one that you made against a Supreme Court nominee were to happen in 2018, in the present time, I think it was 2017 when he interviewed, but in the present time, is like, if that were to happen today, do you think that what happened to you would happen to another woman? Do you think it would be, in other words, do you think it would be a circus that is meant to attack you and degrade you and beat you over the head for coming forward as a victim, and then also in the process continue the confirmation process for the nominee in question and elevate him to the highest court in the land, despite the very credible allegations of this woman, Anita Hill? And she said, "Oh no, I don't think that would happen today."
Oh boy. Yeah.
No, today, she said, today I would hope that we would have different things in place to protect against such a tragedy occurring as what happened to me. And, you are listening to a Mexican Crossing Lines, Cindy Gomez-Schempp, on 88.1 FM. So I'm going to say something here you're not going to hear anywhere else. Okay? Because I think it needs to be said. And this is what my takeaway was from hearing that. After I heard that shocking statement that she made in her interview last year, I thought, oh dear God, is no Republican, conservative, racist, white person out there going to say it? Because, during the suffrage movement, when white women trying to get the vote, Susan B. Anthony and all her friends, they used what I'm about to say to get that vote for white women. Not for black women, but for themselves. And they said, so you're allowing black people, which are subhuman, to vote, but you are not going to allow white women to do it? And it worked. It worked. White people everywhere were so incensed that what, black people have something that a white person doesn't have? That can't be so. So you're going to tell me, all you white folks out there, conservative ones, saying that we don't need to let these people, because now we're not just talking about Dr. Ford coming forward. We're talking about at least 4 women making sexual assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. Okay? I'm going to tell you about them on tonight's show. we're not going to investigate any of them with law enforcement, the FBI. We're not going to have any investigation that is thorough, like Anita Hill thought would happen if something like this were to happen. And she would be even more shocked, I'm sure she's terribly shocked right now, had she known in the time that she was asked that question that 4 white women would come forward with Ivy League background, some of them with doctoral theses in psychology and science. Like, these are not some rando off the street women. They come from wealth, from power, from good families, from good educations, from non-secular private school religious backgrounds. And they are being told they're still nuts or sluts.
Yeah.
It's nothing has changed, Anita. It didn't change the fact that they are white women. It doesn't change anything. The fact that there's 4 of them doesn't change anything. It simply doesn't matter. Because the only thing that matters is a man's reputation and ability to climb the highest ladder of power and wealth. That is more important than the life of any woman in this country. Sadly, but it is true. And I think it needs to be said, and I'm going to say it.
That's right.
Because, you know what? I don't think people are having an honest conversation. I haven't heard a single reporter confront white conservatives with that fact. So you're telling me you were willing to grant a black woman an FBI investigation into her allegations, but these white women do not deserve that? How do other white people feel about this slight? Oh, I guess it was because it was a black woman making the accusation and also possibly putting a black man on the Supreme Court. So they're like, yeah, make sure and check into it deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But since it's a white dude and it's white ladies, they're like, no, I don't understand it. Can you explain it to me, Duke?
I can't explain it. What I see is Congress, for example, they don't care. They don't care that these allegations are coming forward because they don't care about women. It's like they're going to look at what they're going to look at, and they don't really care. And, so they want to sweep that under the rug right away and just do a vote. Grassley is like, we don't have to listen to this. When I was a child, my father was a city manager of mine in North Dakota, and they used to vote on rape and abuse crisis center funding. And I remember he told me he came back from a city council meeting, city commission meeting, or city council meeting, and he said, one of the council members, one of the aldermen said, there's no such thing as an abused woman. You won't vote for any funding because there's no such thing as an abused woman. That's the same generation as Grassley, and the same generation as most of those men in Congress that are in control. So women aren't believed. I also believe that what the white feminist movement has elevated women to the point that I think it's gotten into people's head that they have a lot more going than they do in our society because it's not happening. This is evident of what's not happening, and I think there's a problem with the way the movement is and with, what's being said and what's being pursued. And I believe that there's been a lot of mistakes and they aren't recognizing the history of the feminist movement. Liberals aren't recognizing the history of being a liberal.
Yeah.
And one thing gets missed in there. Well, the biggest thing gets missed there is race. The second biggest thing in there is misogyny, white supremacy, male superiority. Because, hey, I'm a guy. I was brought up as male. I know what happens. I'm in the club. I was in sports. I was taught by men to hate and minimize women. And all the men around me did too. That's what we have been brought up on. So this whole idea about sexual assault is like, oh, wait a minute. My God, when I start thinking about it, I did things that weren't cool when I was a kid. Well, that shouldn't worry about that because as men, we've always taken advantage of women. We've enslaved women and we've subjugated women. I was an anthropologist. I had courses that we studied the whole world and looked at the universal subordination of women and culture. Mm-hmm. It's something that can be studied and is real and has a history. And people aren't actually taking that into account as you look at the procedures and the policies and the things that we do today and how it's not reflected because we aren't studying it, recognizing, or believing it.
Well, just like they're literally taking history books in places like Texas and removing parts that they don't like about creation and, their desire to make sure that the Bible stays relevant in education, as well as, specific figures like Hillary Clinton being removed from history books and things like that. As you know, they've changed a lot of those history books to reflect that slavery was basically, volunteering work, or like immigrants that came here to work.
Came here to work.
They're trying to revise history on race, but they're also trying to erase and revise history around the rights of women, and that has always existed. And as you pointed out, the subjugation of women, the universal subjugation of women, is not even discussed. Nor are we discussing the dynamics and the the overlap between rape culture and racism, because don't forget it, kids. It was allowable for white men to rape their slaves, and always has been in the minds of white men. They still view the lives of women of color as being disposable, usable. That is why in the present day, even in the present day, women of color are still being sterilized in the medical system and also in the prison industrial complex against their will. And white women are out here fighting for their right to have abortions, right?
Yeah.
White women tell me that they, in many cases, have to fight their doctors and their husbands in order to have their tubes tied or to become sterilized of their own accord, because they don't want to have children or because they have painful childbirth, etc. And meanwhile, women like myself were sterilized after my second child because white lady thought I should do it, because that's what they impose on women of color, because they're trying to control our numbers and our population through eugenics. And here's the thing that I know. I know that if we don't have and include all of these other factors into our discussion, we're not going to get anywhere near close to addressing the real problem in our society, which isn't just about whether or not we believe women who say they were raped, but whether or not we care about the lives of women as equal to men, whether or not they are seen as valuable human beings, and we are not. Not currently, not in the past. It hasn't happened. I'll let you know. I'll update you if it does. But presently, it has not happened. So I want to walk through some of what we know so far in regards to the Brett Kavanaugh allegations. First of all, I do want to talk about why we should believe women. There's a lot of information for those who claim in the conservative parties out there, and those who are rape apologists of all political denominations. There is plenty of information, scientific and archaeological proof of the way that we have mistreated women and why we should believe women when they talk about sexual assault and rape. And there's an article I will be sharing on our show tonight with you calling The Science. Science says that we should believe women from the Pacific Standard. And in this article, by the way, this article was posted on Facebook in the comments of a discussion about the latest allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, and why, now that a number of women have come out, there has been zero change in the Conservative Party's denials or desire to investigate the allegations any further. And it was posted by none other than one of North Dakota's former Congress members' aides.
Oh.
I think you know who I speak of, and I won't tell you, but you know it was Dorgan or Pomeroy.
I know who it is.
So now you know who it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, one of those people's personal assistants, whom we all know well in political circles locally, posted this article and talked about, how we need to become people that believe in women and also in science, okay? Because the reality is that the way in which not only is Christine Blasey Ford, but also the new women, including Deborah Ramirez and two others that have come forward, are being attacked for stating that they were sexually assaulted or nearly raped. It's as if we have learned nothing about the reality of rape in our country as a crime. As few as 23% of incidents of rape and sexual assault that were reported to police just in the year 2017 alone, as little as 23% of the total number of rapes were actually reported in 2017. And this is according to the National Crime Victimization Survey, making rape the least likely kind of crime to be reported of every kind of crime that is tracked. Okay. Including theft and all of the different kinds of crimes. This crime, tax evasion, all of them. Mm-hmm. This crime, rape, which is a serious, violent crime, which many women that I have talked to and seen posting about why they didn't report their rape, included losing teeth, having broken bones, having internal and permanent damage to their reproductive mm-hmm. organs, and having blood, etc. That's the kind of crime rape is. And yet, it is the least reported type of crime of all crimes tracked. A 538 analysis found this information. This is all included in the article I'm sharing with you. And because of underreporting of rape, studies have found that the National Crime Victim Survey data and other federal surveys likely leave out millions of incidences of rape. So we can't really track a true number because it is so underreported, mm-hmm. because we do such an awful job of believing women and caring for them as survivors and treating them fairly, not only in the justice system, but in the media and in our families and in our churches. Many survivors not only fear, but receive terrible retaliation for coming forward. They believe that the police will do very little to help them. In many cases, they believe that the police will re-victimize them, and they're not wrong.
That's right.
And research has confirmed that there is a very powerful stigma against women who report this crime. Mm. It's just something bonkers.
Yeah, it is.
If you reported that somebody tried to murder you, people will be more likely to investigate, and if that murder attempt included a rape, they're less likely to care.
Wow. About
the murder
mm-hmm.
attempt. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So there is a lot of stigma around people reporting rape for a number of reasons. I'm going to cover some of them in my conversation tonight. And one of them is that people have difficulty remembering details. And mm-hmm. that is completely normal. Okay? Not to mention the fact that many women, because they don't report sexual assault, abuse, and rape, they never, you're talking about sometimes 30, 40 years before people come forward and say anything. Of course, people are going to not remember some details. In many cases, victims were very young. I was a victim of sexual assault before I was 4 years old. Mm. I don't remember the details. I know what my mother told me she remembers mm-hmm. about finding me with blood coming out of my ear, with my underwear missing, and finding me on a pile of rocks. That's what my mother tells me about an incident I have no memory of. And that was just one of a litany of sexual assaults, molestations, and rapes that I would be subjected to throughout my life as a woman. I don't know any women that haven't been sexually assaulted or raped or molested. None. Not a single woman. If you are one of the women that knows me and you've never told me that you happen to be one of those magical women that's never been assaulted, never been raped, never been sexually harassed, there's no sexual misconduct on the part of any of their employers, and they've just led this life surrounded by men who don't have any of these inclinations, I would like you to step forward and let me know. Tell me about your magical life. Yeah. I don't know a single woman like this in my life. Do you? No. In fact, and again, it's like women are conditioned to take the abuse. And so, the only thing I think when a woman says that is that she's already, accepted that this is just her due in life. This just happens to women, and it's normalized. It's been normalized for a long time. We live in a patriarchy. Again, I'll bring up that I have an anthropology degree, and I studied archaeology as well as cultural anthropology. And, so reading from that, you have male-centered societies. And, with that comes dominance. And so, I've heard women say that, and I can't judge them for that or anything, but it's like, I just kind of think like, well, how did that not happen to you? And it's like, boy, that's pretty remarkable if it did. And I wish you safety. I wish all women safety. And I wish that all men would stop doing this stuff and ratchet it back and get in touch with their maleness, which is not even connected to love. It's connected to hate and dominance, and you need to evaluate yourself in the way you treat women, the way you see women. And so men need to step up. It's not a women's problem, it's a men's problem, and we put all the problem on the women. It's reflected in what we're seeing on the news today, and with this the Supreme Court hearings, a nomination, that we don't care about women, and we care more about men. So it's a men's problem that has to be solved by men. True. Very true, Duke. But I have to say, if ifs and buts were if candy and nuts, then we'd all have a Merry Christmas, right?
That's right.
Here's the problem, though. Wishing and hoping that men will stop hasn't worked. It's never worked. There have to be criminal penalties. There have to be punishments. People have to lose their jobs. People have to be punished. Yes, there has to be punishment. There has to be repercussions. Women carry the repercussions of sexual assault. And no, this is not a crime that only occurs to women. 10% of men are also raped. But the thing is, and sexually assaulted and molested. But the thing is, the majority of the assaults and the rapes are happening to women, and I think that's part of the reason why men don't care. Because if this was a common occurrence in the lives of men, if they had no agency about their reproductive decisions, no agency about when they got sexualized, at what age they became sexualized by the opposite sex or by the opposite gender, if they had no agency and no decision-making power as to who their partners were going to be or when those encounters were going to happen throughout their lives, I think that there would be an outcry and an immediate action taken to ensure the safety of men.
I agree.
Because men have gone so far as to promote and protect their homophobia and their transphobia under the guise of ensuring the protection and safety of cis hetero men and cis hetero marriage. Isn't that true?
Oh, definitely true.
Like, people have gone to great lengths to do that.
I totally agree. And it's part of a really strong conditioning that's supported by other men. And again, you said that we need penalties. We need to be reconditioned because we've already been conditioned. We've been conditioned to abuse, hate, and dominate women. And that's not just going to change, but just look at your past and evaluate and be a better man. It's like, no, we have to be reconditioned. A lot of us, I was in sports. It was total conditioning. It was total militarized supremacy conditioning, and I was a football star, and I got accredited and was one of the best players in Western North Dakota. And, I look back at that because I was conditioned to be this player. I was conditioned to be in that sport. And that sport was very anti-women. Our football coach would say, football is a game that women will never play. And I'm like, why is he saying that? Was that supposed to, yay, what are we supposed to cheer about that? And it's like that sort of conditioning is still with me, the sports and reaction conditioning. It's a lot like being in a military. I always considered sports a military training, preparing me to be a soldier because of all the deprivation and all the physical stuff that you had to endure to do that sport. But at the same time, they were conditioning us to be men, conditioning us to be misogynists. It's part of the sports. We need to be reconditioned. I don't know what that looks like. I don't have a solution. All I know is like, yeah, you're totally right. You can't just say change.
No.
It's not going to change. There's no incentive to
No.
change. There needs to be some drastic changes to change us that we need to be part of.
Yeah, those two things definitely need to happen in tandem. Punishment and reconditioning. And we also have to stop thinking about the victims the way that we do. It's completely normal not to recall details of a traumatizing experience. As this article shares, as the Pacific Standard reported in 2016, terror tricks the memory encoding region of our brain into hyperdrive, giving victims vivid memories of certain components of their environment when their fear sets in. Like the smell of the attacker's cologne or the song that's on the radio. But while some of the memories may be vivid, they also may not be linear. And the fragmented and inconsistent memories that traumatized victims have of events can lead officers to question whether or not they're telling the truth. So, not only do officers or people that are interacting with victims have to be retrained, they need to understand the stigmas against women. Of course, there's a polygraph involved so far in the case of Kavanaugh's accuser. Now there are 4, at least that we know of. And where there's 1, there's more. And where there's 4, there's probably a huge story underlying this, So, Democrats want Kavanaugh to take a lie detector test. People don't feel that he should be subjected because, for one, they argue that it's not, they're not accurate. That's, what, here's the thing. The same people that are demanding that there be proof, is there a rape kit, a police report, a finding from a court, because that's the only thing that they will accept, are the same people that say, don't interview witnesses, don't have an FBI investigation, don't give him a polygraph.
Wow.
Do you want additional information or don't you? Do you want a thorough investigation or don't you? You can still investigate things 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. Rape is the kind of violent crime that should have no statute of limitations. Let's start with that. No statute of limitations for rape, because in every state in this country that I know of, there's a statute of limitations. Some, because many states are now recognizing that most women, and that we do such a terrible job at taking care of victims and prosecuting these crimes, where we prosecute like less than 20% of the people that are actually accused with the police. Okay? Less than 20% of those people will be prosecuted. The message that we repeatedly send to women, even when they do rape kits that we warehouse for years and years and years and then throw away because we don't want to test them. The message we keep sending to women is, you don't matter. And the message that we send to women after we tell them, if you didn't report it, it's not real. If you didn't report the rape to the police, if you didn't get a rape kit done, it didn't happen and you're just a slut. And we keep telling women that they don't matter and that their rape cannot be credible unless they were raped in a very specific way. They can't have been dressed in a way that would make them sluts. They can't have been drinking or under the influence of any drugs, even if they were drugged by their assailant. They have to have reported it. They have to have a rape kit that has to have been tested, and they have to have gone to court. And even after all of that, you tell them in the court system, yeah, we still don't want to prosecute this. Because the majority of people, the justice system acknowledges, don't believe the victim.
Yeah.
And they know it. And they know that 9 times out of 10, even when there's ample evidence that the rape occurred, people will still care more about the future of an athlete or any random man before they care about the future and the suffering of the victim, of his victim.
Yeah, in the stats you just used from the article, you said that the article said 23%. Only 20, less than 23% of rapes are actually reported. Mm-hmm. So take 100 rapes, only 23 people have reported that rape. Now, out of those 23 people, women, or possibly men too, only 20% of those reported are prosecuted. That comes to 4.6 people out of 100 that have reported a rape. Less than 5 people out of 100 will actually result in a conviction. Mm-hmm. Who wants to go to court and pursue that? That there's not going to be any justice. It's only 4.6% of people actually get justice in a very underreported crime. That when it's reported, only 23% are actually prosecuted, and only 20% of those are actually result in a conviction or some sort of charges or some sort of remedy. Those odds are horrible for anyone to want to go through.
Nobody should have to go through that. And as I said when we started tonight talking about Anita Hill, the reality for most survivors, most of which do not lie, okay? The majority of women that have reported rape are not lying. There is a small percentage of people that have lied about being raped. And I've had discussions about who those women are on my shows. Mm-hmm. They're usually white women or white men that want to kill a person of color because, they touched their woman. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have been drawing parallels to what is happening in our media. And I was very disappointed. The media, I don't think, has done a very good job of showing women that we support them, of protecting women. On our page, on 88.1, on KPPP, we posted the story about the second accuser to come forward, Deborah Ramirez. And I stated at the time that now 2 women have accused Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault, and if he is confirmed, then rape culture wins and women are worthless in America. That is the message we are being sent. Hashtag Deborah Ramirez. And lo and behold, there was a comment from one of the people that was on our Facebook page that was just appalling to me. And this is what Melissa Sloan Howard had to say. Rape apologist Melissa Sloan Howard said, No BS if this man is stopped from being confirmed, then everybody loses, because that means that people are guilty until they're proven innocent. And that's completely the opposite of what our country is built on. I have a son. I have a father. I have a husband. And I expect somebody to have proof of what they're accusing him of, not just accusations. And here's what I said, or here's what we responded as a station. Melissa, rape apology and abuse will not be tolerated on our page. Comments like this are the reason why victims are afraid to report. Duke, what do you think of this woman talking about guilty until proven innocent? I wasn't aware that this was an actual trial for Kavanaugh's rape accusations. What is this woman talking about?
Oh, she's just trying to protect supremacy. And a lot of times when I've seen women kind of go down this road, they are trying to protect the men that are around them, because it's hard for them to look at them and look at their little boys that are going to be rapists, and you're conditioning to be so. So I and also I think it's like she's totally going off onto like he's innocent until proven guilty, yet there's been an avenue to actually prove his innocence, because it's not a trial, it's a hearing, and they got to piece together something that's going to make some sort of sense. And she's just going off like, nope. And imagine if other accusations came up. They should be prepared for all sorts of accusations and have a process to deal with them. There's a smear campaign. They said he was selling cocaine when he was 25 years old. Is there any truth to that? No, there's not. We're done with that one. Throw that one out. But when it comes to sexual assault of a young woman when he was young, Oh, we can't talk about that. That was a long time ago. There's no proof of that. How are they going to prove that? And say, well, wait a minute, let's look into it. Nope, not going to look into that. It's just a way to try to, it's a political move by the Democrats. And it's not. So she's trying to do the same sort of thing. It's a diversionary tactic to take it away what the issue is. And to say that he's just innocent until proven guilty, just appoint him to the Supreme Court for the rest of his life and the rest of our lifetime. We don't need to know about this stuff. It's avoiding the issues totally.
Well, we're told that men and women are equal now, and that, everybody's getting a fair opportunity to speak here. But I believe some people are more equal than others. Just like Animal Farm. Yeah. I believe that some people, especially those that have more power and more wealth, expect a different type of process. And I think Brett Kavanaugh and the people that want him confirmed expect a different type of process. And they're all trying to enable him. That is how, enablers lift up and maintain rape culture and supremacy. Mm-hmm. Let me share this visual with you that made me kind of giggle from at Kate Willett with 2 L's and 2 T's. She said, "Call me old-fashioned, but I want a man who will protect me like I'm the reputation of a guy he's never met." When I see people like the woman that came on our page to defend Brett Kavanaugh, who I'm sure she doesn't know from Adam. Yeah. And the way that people here in the Fargo-Moorhead region, on a number of other, publications like The Forum that printed an awful op-ed, very anti-woman op-ed, and also on Point of View, which, as you know, loves to rape apologize and slut shame women. Yeah. There's just this, anger, this rabid anger against these women. And one of the first sentences is, "This accusation from 30 some blah, 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 blah." It's only important that it was a 30 or 20 or 10 or a long time ago accusation because the crime is rape, folks. Yeah. Because you don't care about rape, because you don't believe women, because you don't value women. Because if you put any other crime in there, you wouldn't even say that sentence because it wouldn't matter. The accusation of murder of 30 years, it's murder. You committed a heinous crime. There is no statute of limitations for being an awful, terrible person. And you know what? In my experience as a woman, it is the people, entitled ones especially, like Brett Kavanaugh, that don't get punished for their picadillos when they're younger, that go on to commit greater and greater crimes and oppressions and rapes because they never were punished in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that is something that we have as a country done repeatedly to women. We tell women all the time, boys will be boys. We don't have to look at what boys did at a young age and stigmatize them for the rest of their lives. But if you're a woman and you report a rape at any age, you will be shamed. You can put them up as I name them off. This one was posted by Rachel Harold Evans at Rachel Harold Evans. And she said, "The same religious leaders who told me as a teenager that premarital sex was a grave sin that would ruin my life forever have declared that no one can fault a 17-year-old boy for attempted rape." I mean, do you remember those women on CNN that were sitting around going like, show me a 17-year-old that hasn't attempted rape? That's right. I was like, they're like, what? You're encouraging 17-year-olds to rape. And well, I think that they're acknowledging that in the same people that want to defend Brett Kavanaugh and say that, not all men are the same people that acknowledge with their very words and actions in regards to rape allegations that yes, all men. that, this is just so common and pervasive that, we should expect by the age of 17, you've raped at least one person, right? Or attempted it, right?
Yeah.
It's terrifying. She goes on to say, they always said the world, quote unquote, would not understand our sexual ethic because, quote, the darkness cannot comprehend the light. Maybe the world just doesn't get a sexual ethic in which being gay is a sin, but chronic infidelity, sexual assault, and pussy grabbing are just guys being guys. And that's the truth. We do not care. We say things. Our president says things. Our Congress says things that send the message repeatedly to women of the world and especially of this country. You don't matter as much as men.
Yeah.
You do not have value like a man. We must protect the future of a man, the reputation of a man, the job of a man. But a woman doesn't matter. And Christina Blasey Ford is now set to testify before the congressional committee that wants to nominate this man to the highest court in the land. There's been a lot of hubbub about whether or not they would let this woman, give the woman the opportunity to actually testify. And it was centered around basically, well, she's gotten plenty of time and we've given her, we can't keep delaying this. We've given her all the time we can give her. And if she's not here by Monday and setting deadlines and setting, she wanted to have some kind of, security protections in place guaranteed to her because she's put herself and her career and her family in danger by coming forward. She has absolutely nothing to gain by coming forward. Only shame and harassment and fear. Nothing positive from coming forward for her. So you would think that they would be eager to accommodate a victim and make sure that she feels safe. They didn't want to do that for her. They're pressing her to come and testify by Monday. Again, there is now negotiations that she's going to be testifying next week in place.
Oh, actually, this Thursday.
Yep. Excuse me. But here's the thing. This was before all of these other women had come out in the media. Yep. I mean, they had come out to, their lawyers or to other people in the past. And this information hadn't made its way into the media cycle yet. So at the time, the Senate really just had to worry about getting rid of Dr. Ford. And as long as they could press her in one way or another into not feeling safe or comfortable or that this was going to be an operation in futility because it wasn't going to lead to stopping the confirmation of Kavanaugh or an investigation or a fair hearing because her witnesses weren't going to even be heard.
Yeah.
Such that she would feel that it was pointless to even go. You felt that the people that were driving to Grassley, Mitch McConnell, some of these other men that we've heard from in the media, including the president, were really trying to, while showing a face of politeness and concern because it's the Metoo movement, so you can't look like a complete a-hole.
Yeah.
You can't openly look hostile, which is another one of the reasons they wanted to have outside counsel come in and do something unprecedented, which is have a woman outside counsel come and question Dr. Ford on behalf of these men because it was going to be all old white men questioning her.
Yeah.
Right. And the optics of that, especially in this time of the Me Too movement, were going to be so horrifying for their political careers going forward. That's how damaging they knew that kind of rhetoric was going to be on television. Yeah. So they wanted to hire outside counsel and they were setting everything up. So they were going to tear this woman to shreds the moment she walked in there. And now they've set a date. And now that they have, 3 more women come forward. Wow. What do you think their plan or play is at this point?
Well, I think their play is to ignore and run. And the thing is that they're being shown you should have some sort of investigative procedure to check things out. What are they going to do? Just ignore these other women that came forward saying, oh, it's just a smear campaign. It's just made-believe stuff to slow us down. Mm-hmm. Check into it and make that decision if the evidence shows that that's what it is. But like you said, these are affluent women who have credentials who are coming forward with what Kavanaugh did years and years ago because they encountered him. They were encountering this man. They had experiences with them, and they're telling their stories. I think that the Senate Confirmation Committee, whichever committee it is, I forget which one, but they have no procedure, or they're just not willing to use any procedure. And I don't know. I don't know how they're going to just hold this hearing on Thursday. They might just do that and then not talk about the other stuff, or just maybe talking about the other stuff after that, not bring it up at this hearing, because it's about the one woman and one accusation that they've already acknowledged that they're going to have a process for, and deal with the other ones afterwards, or not just vote the guy in. I think they're going to run and jump and try to vote this guy in.
Without hearing the other three women.
Just because of the way they're behaving, and I don't think that they should do that. I don't think it would be politically smart to do that. But I just get this feeling by the way it's run that they're just going to take this and run it through and finalize it and ignore the other stuff.
I have to ask you. I mean, that could be political football, because what is that going to do to the midterms? This is so close to the midterms. If they ram Kavanaugh through, I mean, I'm sure it'll be exciting to the base of the Conservative Party. But overall, including conservative women, how is that going to go over with voters?
Terrible. Terrible. But at the same time, a lot of the voters first of all, voters. What percent of voters vote in this country? It's less than half. Less than half. And in a lot of precincts, it's even much less than half. Of the eligible voters to vote. That they're saying you get out and vote and get out and vote. I think that a lot of people are just going to put the blinders on and move on. And I think maybe if something else terrible happens and it trumps this issue, that we'll be paying attention to that, and this stuff will just go underneath the table. So in the political sense, I think it would be political suicide because, I don't know, are these Republicans who have been staunch Republicans and supporting the Republican going to not vote for a Republican now? Are the people who supported Kevin Cramer in North Dakota, who eventually got him elected to be in the House of Representatives after many, many, many times of running for a state, commissioner and all sorts of other offices they never got into. Suddenly he becomes a representative. Then he decides to go for the Senate. I don't know. Are they going to not support Kevin Cramer? And he said really stupid stuff around this, too. He's pretty much a woman blamer, that this stuff is a diversionary tactic, that none of it's true, and it's just the Democrats are trying to stall. And he's trying to become a senator. I don't know if no matter how this happens, if those people that support Cramer are going to change their mind. I don't know. It's hard for me to get in the mind of people who are staunchly into one party. I never have been, because I have always looking at the people and what it's going to cause in our community to have this person elected. And I voted my conscience. But a lot of times my vote wasn't worth a squat. I voted for someone who I thought was really good. They never had a chance of actually becoming elected. Not enough people will vote for them. So I wasted that vote. So what am I supposed to do? Take the vote I don't want to give this one person because then it'll help bolster them to win, and I don't want them in the first place? I mean, this voting stuff, they haven't given us the candidates. They haven't given us the process to actually have a good measured democracy of people electing officials to represent them in Congress. It doesn't work very well. It works very well to keep people in power. That's what it works for, and it was originated in a country that was about taking power of the country away from indigenous people who were here and forming their own country on their own terms to keep their power together and giving landowners the rights to have people in bondage and slavery, and then count them for their own votes. Not that they could vote, but count them as kind of part of a person. So I add them up. There's more people, so I get more votes. That's where this electoral process comes from. It still exists today, and it's all about retaining supremacy and power. So I don't think there's a bunch of Republicans or Democrats sitting around there going, well, geez, this is going to influence the midterm elections. It will. It will, based on what those candidates are saying, I would hope. I'd hope that if your Senate candidate is talking about blaming women and saying these women shouldn't have a right to come forward and there should be no process for this, and blaming women for being sexually assaulted, that they're to blame, I think they should vote him out of office and vote for someone else that has a different perspective. If the other candidate doesn't have a different perspective, has the same one, don't vote for either. Neither of them are good for that position.
True. Well, it is no longer just Dr. Blasey Ford. Now, and this is remarkable, I have to say, I have to tip my hat to these amazing women. I don't care what any of their detractors and the rape apologists out there say about them. They absolutely have nothing to gain, and any victim, any survivor knows that. Especially because this woman is now in a great job. She's published dozens of books. She has a family. She's, very respected. There is nothing but heartache at the end of this story for her to come forward. True. And I have, this to me is one of the most amazing, resilient, patriotic, selfless actions that I have seen an American woman take in a while. Mm-hmm. That I go, wow, that's remarkable, because she has absolutely nothing to gain. And she's still doing it, knowing that they're not just going to try to destroy her if she gets there. They're going to try to block her at every step of the way before she even arrives.
Yeah.
And then they're going to try to tear her down and destroy her life and the life of her children and her husband afterwards. And that is the backdrop into which these new women are stepping forward. Is that not just the most mind-blowing thing on earth? Mm-hmm. Why? What suicide pact have you made that you would look at what's happening to Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and go, I'm going to do that next?
Yeah, really.
Seriously.
Yeah, I want death threats. I want my life to be uprooted. I want anything I'm doing in my life, in my family, anything to be all of a sudden taken over for me to get involved in this. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. I think that, I think the women are encouraged to come forward. That's been part of the Metoo. It's probably been one of the things that has had an effect on men. We men are scared, because all of a sudden women are coming together on a process of bringing things forward, and also seeing that there's commonality that we already know, but women saying out loud. I don't know what's going to happen with this, and it's like you have the pundits and everybody that just has their analysis and stuff. I don't know. I make up stuff. They may cancel the hearing on Thursday. They may postpone it because of these other ones coming forward. I don't know. I don't think they should. I think they should go through with it and have a process for the other women too. But they might just take it off the table, to prolong it and just put her through more and more agony. Mm-hmm.
If you assaulted women and you are in a confirmation process like Brett Kavanaugh is, and you lie to the confirmation committee, and as part of that confirmation are discovered to have lied in the past to them when you were trying to get confirmed for the circuit, as it appears he has, or has been alleged to have done, and you continue to perjure yourself in the process of defending yourself against allegations of violence and sexual assault, then you should lose your job.
Yeah.
In addition to not getting on the highest court of the land.
Remember, he's a judge. It's a judge.
Yeah.
Imagine what his courtrooms were like when he was hearing testimony from people who were
like the undocumented young woman who he denied the right to get an abortion after a court in the United States ordered that she be allowed to do this without the consent of her parents because they were not here in the country to be able to consent, and she needed an abortion. The requirement for her as a minor to have to get permission from her parents was decided by a court, and he as a judge turning against precedent that you don't overturn a lower court unless there's a very real reason on new examination of new evidence that this other prior judge obviously did not take into account. Instead, Brett Kavanaugh decided on his own that he would reinstate the whole issue of whether or not there was supposed to be parental consent by demanding that the court take the time to try to find her some kind of guardians in the United States who are not going to be her parents in any event.
And put it in their hands.
Rando strangers.
And meanwhile, the clock was ticking. It was only, a certain amount of weeks there where you would still, under the current law of having an abortion, would be able to still have an abortion. But he said, there's plenty of time. Just find these surrogate parents that don't even know this young woman, and they'll decide in her best interest.
That's true. And it was disgusting. So, of course, women are, rightfully concerned about somebody like Kavanaugh being confirmed to the highest court in the land. And I wanted to discuss some of the comments being made by people all the way at the top, including our president. Okay. Here's a comment that he made, and then there's another comment from Joe Kennedy. You want to read those, honey?
Yep. I have no doubt that if the attack on Dr. Ford was... Whoops, I got to move the wrong thing. All right. Must be Trump at the top. Trump at the top. I have no doubt that if the attack on Dr. Ford was as bad as she says, charges would have been immediately filed with local law enforcement authorities by either her or her loving parents. I ask that she brings those filings forward so that we can learn date, time, and place. Trump. And then Kennedy says, 2 out of 3 sexual assaults are never reported. Might have something to do with the fact that every 1,000 rapes, 994 perpetrators will walk free. And the fact that men in power make statements like this one. Joe Kennedy.
Did you notice how he subtly made sure to question her, the veracity of her statement, while also low-key attacking her parents, loving her?
Yeah.
Like, he's like,
yeah.
If your parents cared about you, of course they would. I mean, first of all, if you were raped and it was as serious as you claim, it would have definitely been reported to the cops. And I bolster that with the fact that if you had parents and weren't raised by a wild pack of dogs,
yeah, exactly,
any loving parent would have taken you to the police, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
What do you make of this kind of an allegation from Trump? How does that not make it so that she's not going to have a fair hearing?
Oh, he's totally sided against her. And in fact, it goes back to, where's the police report? If there's no police report, the crime didn't happen. And he says that she needs to bring these filings forward. It's already said there's no police report. It's already given fact that there's no police report. He's saying bring these filings forward. It won't be legitimized unless she had reported it to police, and that she brings those reports forward. Therefore, it's not legitimate claim. And then him throwing in this loving parent thing is like, oh, it's like her.
This coming from a man that looks like he sexually assaults his daughter.
Well, yeah.
This coming from a man who said that the thing that he has the most in common with his daughter is their sex lives.
Yeah.
This coming from a man that has publicly fondled her.
Yeah.
This coming from a man who has been accused by at least 19 women of sexual assault and rape.
Yep.
Don't forget, hashtag rape apologists rape.
Yep.
Hashtag rape apologists enable. Don't forget that. And apologists do that because they're defending and protecting supremacy. That's what they do. That's what an apologist does. Want to post this one from Oh No She Twint. The Volatile Mermaid posted, very surprised that Roy Moore, who sexually assaulted teenagers, and Donald Trump, who sexually assaulted a teenager, were defending Brett Kavanaugh, who sexually assaulted a teenager.
Oh, yeah. Rapists together, flock together, I guess.
Yeah. And that is something we have to recognize. Of course, they're going to defend each other because they all have something in common, which is they did the same thing and they don't want to get punished for it. Mm-hmm. And they didn't get punished for it. So why should my buddy Brett get punished for something I did and still do? And one of the things that they're trying to claim is that there is this party calendar involved. And, that he has now given his calendar from high school to the Senate committee hearing. And it has all of his sporting events on there and dentist appointments.
He kept
and his
schedule.
schedule. And it says when their family went on vacation. Things that you jot on the calendar. He's turned it over. And there's no mention. There are mentions of some parties during the summer.
Yeah.
But no mention of specifically the people that she has named as witnesses or herself as listed on the calendar anywhere. So this is a funny tweet in response to that being some kind of evidence that was reported by the New York Times originally, saying that Brett Kavanaugh has calendars from 1982 that his team says don't show a party matching his accuser's account.
Oh, okay.
He plans to give them to the Senate. And Laura Bassett at Lee Bassett, at L.E. Bassett on Twitter had this hypothetical conversation between a teenage boy and his mother about having parties in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, every 80s movie I can remember, Ferris Bueller, all of those teenage boys in high school movies show teenage boys that obviously never told the truth about what they were doing in high school, college parties,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
To their parents. But she says, she's in the conversation here, says, Mom says, did you have a party while we were gone? Me, no. Mom, why is there a beer bottle in my bed? Me, I don't know. But as you can see, I didn't write any party down on my calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, carry on.
Carry on, young man.
Right. So, like, every teenager wrote down every party they went to in their calendar and kept a record of everyone that attended the parties, right?
Yep.
No. And, of course, there's been a lot of the same type of rhetoric, not just from the president, but from other members of the Senate committee. Here's one from Lindsey Graham, where he says, they've had tons of time to do this. This has been a drive-by shooting when it comes to Kavanaugh. What a disgusting comparison that is. I listened to the lady, but we're going to bring this to a close.
Oh, boy.
It's Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican on the Judiciary Committee. What do you think of that comment of him comparing what is happening to Kavanaugh, which is him being accused by women, now multiple women, of sexual assault and attempted rape, as a drive-by shooting? Who do drive-by shootings happen to most commonly?
People of color. So, and for him to say that, and also Kavanaugh's not getting shot. He's getting held accountable. And to him, if that's like being shot in a drive-by shooting, it's a very, very racist comment. And it's also very minimizing. And also where he says, let's just get it done with. I'm going to hear this lady, but as soon as she's done, we're going to get this thing done with. Let's get it done. Get her done. He sounds like a southerner redneck, which I think he is. But for him to say that, it's like, very insensitive. Shows that he's not a very smart person.
She's not a lady merely.
Yeah.
She is Dr. Christine Ford, Blasey Ford. She is published. She is accomplished. And it's not like Jerry Lewis, hey, lady. This is not some rando woman that he is trying to diminish in his tweet. Not to mention the fact that I could just imagine Lindsey Graham writing this tweet, and he was like, what Brett Kavanaugh is experiencing is like a lynching. And then, somebody like Grass like, don't use lynching because that's not going to go over.
You drive-by shooting.
And he's like, delete. Drive-by shooting. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. And of course, Mitch McConnell, the other rape apologist, you would think that these members of Congress who are on these committees that are going to be reviewing this stuff would not be tweeting like Trump, like doing things that are embarrassing, because obviously he can't control himself. Mm-hmm. Trump cannot control himself, and apparently nobody in the administration can either. But these fellows, they can't even pretend to be objective. This is a post from at CNN, saying, Mitch McConnell, you've watched the fight, you've watched the tactics, but here's what I want to tell you. In the very near future, Judge Kavanaugh will be on the Supreme Court. Don't get rattled by all of this. We're going to plow right through and do our job. So it's his job to confirm Kavanaugh from what I can read on this, no matter what is said in that committee. How do you read that? What he's saying is, don't get rattled by all of this being women coming forward to accuse him. We're going to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. We're going to plow right through it and do our job. Well, plow through what? Accusations of rape?
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't care, and they're going to do the process. They don't care what comes forward. They don't care that the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee ask for the information that they're not being provided, even though they're members of the committee. They're minority members, and literally minority members, and they're not getting information that they need to cast their vote. He says it doesn't matter. We have the votes. We're going to push this through. Doesn't matter any of this stuff because we're just going to do it. These hearings are just a formality we have to do according to the policies and what's under the our purview as Congress to actually appoint these judges based on the Constitution. We don't need to hear all this stuff. We're just going to do it. They're operating out of the days of the South when slaves were worth like 3/5 of a person, and that they're just going to do stuff because they're the owners of the land. They're the landlords, and they're the lords of the land, and they're just going to push things through. They don't care about all this
and women
hubbub.
Are chattel.
And women are chattel. So this hubbub of people bringing stuff up. We're going to have this and this and this. And it doesn't matter. We're going to get this guy through, and I'm tired of this because we got other things to do. Let's get it done with. Get her done.
Get her done. Well, look at what the comment was back in response to Mitch McConnell's quote in CNN. There was a judge, Doug Jones. He's an attorney. He's a former U.S. attorney.
Yeah.
He tweeted, if a judge or a juror made a public statement that their mind was made up before all testimony was in, the trial would be prejudiced, and I would move for immediate mistrial. I have the judge removed. Mr. Leader, he's talking to Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Is this the message we want to send to victims of sexual assault? Your comment, Duke?
The answer is yes. That is the message that Mitch McConnell is sending. It's obvious we've heard it from Mitch McConnell. We've heard it from other people. We hear it from our own state representative in North Dakota. Women shouldn't be believed, and women aren't worth stopping this process because they're not the ones that they want to appoint. They're getting in the way of the work of the government. So you just go home now, and the women's place is in the home, not in the Senate or the House. So they're saying what they believe, and they're saying it out loud, not just once, not just twice, but continually, and holding that position. I've seen other reports of them saying the same sort of thing to reporters live.
Well, I'm going to borrow a page from Maxine Waters' playbook and say, when you do this to women, you should be afraid of all of us. And unlike people of color that are going to come out of the woodwork and hold you accountable at a Mexican restaurant for putting kids in cages, and their allies and followers that don't want to see those kinds of crimes committed in our country, women are everywhere. We are everywhere. So you should be very concerned that you are sending that kind of message and then going out into public thinking that we're not going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
That we're going to let you eat your meals in peace, or go shopping in peace, or do anything in peace when you're telling women we do not matter to you. Okay? Especially when you are working in the highest legislative body in the country.
Exactly.
That is supposed to represent all Americans. And, the Senate is now investigating new allegations, for as much as we can trust them,
Yeah.
as reported by the New Yorker, into the allegations of Deborah Ramirez. She is a 53-year-old woman who attended Yale with Kavanaugh. These are people that went to an Ivy League school together.
Mm-hmm.
And she studied psychology and sociology.
Oh,
Okay? So remember, you're not messing with any old women here in this situation. Kavanaugh and other Republican men in this country and others that are in politics that are part of the GOP, mind your P's and Q's when it comes to messing with these women. I'm warning you, you had fair warning. If you come for these women, things will not go well for you.
Yeah, exactly.
The New Yorker contacted the victim Ramirez after learning that she had a possible involvement with Kavanaugh. Now, in her allegations, she claims that, you know, she was hesitant to come forward partly because her memories contain gaps and also because she was drinking at the time of the incident.
Okay.
And of course, you know, as victims go,
if
you're not a perfect victim,
that's right.
it's going to be a lot harder on you. And yet she decided to come forward. She did not want, or she was reluctant in her interview with the New Yorker to characterize his role as, you know, an alleged incident of sexual assault because of, you know, the particulars of what happened, even though that's exactly what it is. And you've seen that. I've seen that with other women that have reported rape.
Oh, yeah.
They're very reluctant because they have never been shown, women in general, we've not been shown that reporting rape is okay, that calling rape is okay, that calling sexual assault is okay. I mean, I have watched reporter after reporter talking about Dr. Blasey Ford's sexual assault and attempted rape and calling it a possible attempted rape or a possible assault. There is no possibility that it was that it was anything other than an attempted rape, and it definitely was a sexual assault. When you're talking about somebody grinding their body onto yours and trying to rip off your clothes against your consent, and when you tried to escape, they put their hand over your mouth and try to kill you. That is attempted murder. That, you know, she was in fear for her life. And if this had happened to a man, and if it had been done to an officer, you could kill that person in response to what they were doing to you. And an officer would have. That would have been attempted murder and attempted rape and a definite assault and kidnapping. And, you know, you could argue that that was holding her against her will. So it's a false imprisonment if you don't let somebody go when they want to leave.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to be in charge of their body parts. So once again, she is asking, this second woman is asking for an investigation into her allegations by the FBI.
Okay.
What victim wants the FBI?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that the women, both of whom have been, you know, given their names forward, have asked for the investigations to be done by the FBI, is any more or less rigorous than an investigation being done by the Senate committee or by the police?
Well, I think the FBI, you know, is a different organization, and also for Congress to be accountable to the FBI. It works, you know, that's who they have to be accountable, because the FBI is part of the policing of, you know, the government. And so that'd be an appropriate place to have it. You know, that you would want to invite that into your life. That's not, it's like, yeah, very disruptive. You know, for you to go to the point where I want this investigated, because then I can show my evidence. I can show, you know, what happened to me. I think it's very appropriate, you know, and then and like, you know, it doesn't have to, you know, and I guess I have to take that back. You know, when people speak, they're speaking in their positions. They're always out there, their talking points. And it's like, it only takes a couple days. It could take longer. Come on. You know, it's really hard to go back in the time, you know, over, you know, years and years span, 30-year span, and to try to collect evidence, try to find people and question people, and try to find, you know, and if there's any real physical evidence, you know, anything. It's going to take some time. So them even having a 2-day investigation, I mean, it should just be, you know, one that's actually a way of coming up with either there's something, or, you know, they can't find anything. You know, and if you're going to rush it, it's going to come up, we couldn't find much. People aren't willing to talk. They don't remember. Can't force people to remember something they don't remember. Couldn't find anything. There's nothing there. Investigation done. Get her done.
Now, I'm going to read to you a statement in response to the new allegation by Brett Kavanaugh. Interestingly, the beginning of it is very similar to the last one, which was this 36-year-old allegation, blah, 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 blah. As if, again, as if time made the crime any less heinous. It doesn't.
Okay.
In this one, he starts off again by saying, this alleged event from 35 years ago. If it's an alleged event, what does it matter if it was yesterday or 35 years ago?
Yeah.
So language matters. And as an English major, which I was, as a technical writer, as a paralegal, the way you construct sentences and questions, every word matters. And I pay attention to what he is telling you here. He wants you to know that you shouldn't care about this allegation because it was way, way long ago. He also wants you to know, he says, this alleged event from 35 years ago did not happen. And the next sentence is very interesting. He says, the people who knew me then that didn't know that this did not happen.
How would he know?
The people that knew me back then know that this did not happen. Were they there? Were they at the party? To be clear, the allegations from Deborah Ramirez are as follows. She was at a party. She was drinking. I believe that during this party she was blindfolded or was not able to see because she claims that she did not see who it was that put their junk in front of her. And according to what she remembers, she says that they were sitting in a circle. People who would pick who drank. So it was some kind of a drinking game.
Yeah.
And she said she became quickly intoxicated. At one point, a male pointed a gag plastic pen in her direction. And later on, she said she was on the floor, foggy, slurring her words, and another male student was standing nearby her. Ramirez identified the two male onlookers, but at the request of the New Yorker, is not naming those two men. A third male student then exposed himself to her. So she was really drunk at the time that this happened. She said, I remember a penis being put in front of my face. I knew that's not what I wanted, even if that's in that state of mind. She recalled thinking, that's not a real penis. And the other students laughing at her confession and taunting her in the process. Taunting her. One encouraged her to kiss it. She said that she pushed the person away, touching the penis in the process.
Wow.
Of getting it away. That's unwanted touch on her part, I'm sure. She was raised in Catholic school in Connecticut, and she said that she was very shaken by the incident, stating, I wasn't going to touch a penis until I was married. I was embarrassed and ashamed and humiliated. She remembers Kavanaugh standing to her right and laughing, pulling up his pants.
Wow.
Brett was laughing, she said. I can still see his face. Ugh, that gave me an ugly, shivering feeling. And his hips coming forward, like when you are pulling up on your pants. She recalled another male student shouting about the incident. Somebody yelled down the hall, Brett Kavanaugh just put his penis in Debbie's face, she said. It was his full name. I don't think it was just Brett. And I remember hearing the boy say it and being mortified that now everyone was going to be talking about how Brett Kavanaugh put his penis in her face. Yeah. And, here's one of the things that is really remarkable to me about all of this. For every victim, most of the time, there are numerous witnesses to the incident. Not just people that have a first account visual memory of seeing it, like the guy that yelled, hey, Brett Kavanaugh put his penis in Debbie's face, but the other people that were there at that party.
Yeah.
But also all of the people that were there went and told about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
because this is the kind of thing that makes young ladies commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of thing that humiliate and destroy the reputation of young women forever. These are the kinds of things that are done to shame women all of the time by men like Brett Kavanaugh. And the fact of the matter is, Brett Kavanaugh probably shared this and the other stories of his sexual proclivities with his friends in that circle of the boys club.
Oh, of course.
And those kinds of conversations are had at all times. But there is just like for, there's like this thin blue line where cops never testify against other cops. There's definitely this club of men that do not divulge the sexual improprieties of their fellow man.
Yeah.
What do you have any stories about that? Am I wrong about this? Is
it
my imagination?
No, not at all.
Nobody talks about it.
No, because it's the men's club thing. We all protect each other. The brotherhood of men. And something like that would be like something that your proudness would be talked about between men and joked about between men and supported by men, and it made you more powerful. And recognized, and then other men wanting to do the same thing. It's kind of like, Trump is being accused of having all these sexual relationships while he's married, and proud of it. Other men are proud of that too. Men are proud of men being dominators and being womanizers. It helps build the manliness. So I can see that they're going to keep it out of the authorities because they know it's wrong. They knew it was wrong. But they're going to keep it amongst themselves, and they're going to build their own power as men around that, and keep it private around anyone that has authority that could hold them accountable. They would stick together then. Nope, never happened. Just like Kavanaugh said, everyone who knows me knows that didn't happen. And it's like, well, how do you know? Unless you actually called him up and said, do you remember that time in the hallway? Remember our agreement?
I don't think that that's what he means. I think that that's coded language for... well, nobody that knew me at the time would ever admit that I did that.
Yeah.
Because we all hold each other's secrets, and there is like this, secret code of conduct that we all follow, and that's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen, right? But we've seen the reality, which is that, Trump's gave us a glimpse into how he's normalized not only racism in this country, but sexual assault. I mean, he's the sexual assaulter in chief.
Yeah.
And he showed us when, he was on that bus with Billy Bush that he feels entitled to grab women by the pussy and that they like it. There's nothing that, they won't let you do. If you're a celebrity, especially with women, you can just walk up. He says, I just start kissing them. I don't even ask. So he tells Billy Bush that he does not seek or even attempt to get consent from women. He just takes what he wants. And that the women let him. In other words, he gives away in that statement. He doesn't get in trouble for doing this. The women have no recourse of action. He says when he's talking about a married woman that he sexually assaulted, I moved on her like a bitch. He talks about her in the terms of an animal. Mm-hmm. And at no time, and this is probably why Billy Bush got fired, at no time is there a somber tone, a sound of, an audible sigh or an audible, like,
I can't believe you just said that.
Whoa, wow, or really, or anything from Billy Bush. Just gleeful, unabashed encouragement and laughter.
Remember, they called it locker room talk, which is my reference again. Remember, I talked about being a male and being in sports and being trained to be a male. Locker room talk that is tolerated, and building the abusiveness of other young men in the locker room. It's condoned. It's like the boys will be boys that we talked about earlier. It's locker room talk, and for some reason that if you have this talk in the locker room, it's the private area of the men. It's the club of the men. It's the men's only group where the secrets are held. The Masonic Temple of Men, where their secrets only happen with the secret handshake. This is part of what's wrong. It's part of what builds it up. It's part of what encourages this to continue to go on. And when there's no accountability, especially accountability at the top, it's going to continually encourage other young men and other men in our society to continue doing this. They're setting the precedents to keep this going the way it is, to keep the men together as a group and keep the women segregated out and to keep the power over women. So it's the locker room. When that came out, I thought, that's the defense? It's locker room talk? Man, these guys are really lame, but it seems to work because I heard it repeated by, hundreds of people.
And apparently nobody has a problem with the fact that they kind of admitted and gave away that this is how men talk when they're not within earshot of women.
Yeah, or public.
And they're all okay with it and they all support it. Kind of like, behind the stage racism and in front of the house racism.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not supposed to let people see it. It's like, you can be racist, but just keep it to yourself.
Yep, keep it to yourself or keep it in the fam.
It's all bad. You don't want to keep any of it. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. But, that is not the only problem being faced by this committee and this country. Michael Avenatti is now back in the news, not because of Stormy Daniels, not because of his upcoming political career, but because he's now going to be representing the third woman that has come out against Brett Kavanaugh.
Wow.
And let me just tell you, these allegations are explosive. I am not surprised that Michael Avenatti is involved. And I don't know if it's just me, but the fact that he is involved, is so invigorating to the story of women fighting for their rights simply because of this. Everyone discounted Stormy Daniels. Yeah. Everyone ignored Stormy Daniels. Everyone denied that she or Michael Cohen would face any kind of correction, that the court would rule in Avenatti's favor or in her favor, in Stormy Daniels' favor, or that these very highly important and powerful men would be made to pay some kind of crime. Mm-hmm. And it's happened.
Wow.
It has already happened. Mm-hmm. And now, Michael Cohen tried to retract his lawsuit against Stormy Daniels saying, we just want to, we give up. We don't want to fight anymore. And Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels have said, oh no, you wanted to take us to court for slander and libel, and you were trying to hold all of this over Stormy Daniels' head. And now you've caused her damages because you were lying the entire time, as we have now proven, and as Michael Cohen has now admitted in his guilty plea that gave up Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator of his crime to pay off Stormy Daniels. Mm-hmm. And here's the kicker. He now wants to force the deposition not only of Cohen, but of Trump. And he's probably going to get his way before Robert Mueller even takes a stab at Trump.
Exactly.
So for him to be involved in the Kavanaugh thing. I don't know if I want to get you guys all scared right before Halloween, but this is some scary stuff.
It is.
Because Avenatti does not mess around, as you all know. And he said that there's a third woman that is alleging sexual misconduct by Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court nominee, which he stated, she reached out to me, we vetted her claim, and she satisfactorily passed that vetting. Okay. So he is saying, I not only talked to this woman, I checked out her claims, and she passes the smell test. Yep. I've looked into her background. I'm taking on her case as somebody that I think has a credible claim. Avenatti said that she also has asked to testify at a hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday.
Wow.
Which will hear from California Professor Christine Blasey Ford. The same day, she wants to be there to give her testimony. And she alleges that the judge drunkenly sexually assaulted her while they were in high school. He is now, according to at least 4 women, a serial sexual assaulter.
Wow.
There's more. These fresh allegations have to do with when he was attending Georgetown Prep School in Maryland, where Ford has already accused him of violently attacking her at a party when she was 17, and when he was 17 and she was just 15 years old. Those allegations turned his confirmation process upside down earlier this month. The second accuser, as you know, Deborah Ramirez, came forward on Sunday to say that Kavanaugh exposed himself to her at a freshman party and at Yale, and matters relating to the additional individual date back to Georgetown Prep School. Avenatti said, "I'm going to be representing her, and I may be representing some collaborating witnesses. And we plan on releasing additional information on Kavanaugh." This is all part of the Guardian article we'll be sharing in the comments of this show and along with this program on kpppfm.com, so you can read the whole thing for yourself. Now, here is what Avenatti said. Here is his tweet. No, take that down. I'm not ready for that yet. This is another tweet he tweeted.
I see.
Okay. He said, "I represent a woman with credible information regarding Judge Kavanaugh and Mark Judge. As you may recall, Mark Judge is the person that Christine Blasey Ford accused of being in the same room and knocking Brett Kavanaugh off of her. He jumped on top of her. They were going to do some kind of 3-way rape, I think. I think that's what was about to happen. He jumped on top. He's been basically accused of being a co-rapist attempter of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. And now a new woman is accusing both of them again."
Wow.
There's more. He says in his tweet, "We will be demanding the opportunity to present testimony to the committee, and we will likewise be demanding that Judge Kavanaugh and others be subpoenaed to testify." Oh, sorry, Mark Judge. Mark Judge and other people, other witnesses be subpoenaed and forced to come so that they can also testify under oath. And then he finishes by saying, "The nomination must be withdrawn." Now, coming from anyone else in America right now, that last sentence would seem to me like a hope, a dream, a futile wish. But coming from Michael Avenatti, that sounds like a warning.
Yeah.
Like, the nomination must be withdrawn. Okay? Because if it's not, I am going to rain down hell upon your heads.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't mess with him, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, my God, no. So he said, he tweeted that, and then within minutes of his tweet on Sunday night, he contacted Mike Davis, which is the chief counsel for the nominations for the Judiciary Committee, and he asked additional information be submitted so that the Senate investigators could properly begin an inquiry into this new allegation. Avenatti said He was aware of the significance of evidence of these things. This is what he is alleging through his client, or she through him is alleging. Yes. Kavanaugh and his friend, Mark Judge, participated in the targeting of women.
Wow.
In the targeting of women with alcohol or drugs.
Oh, my God.
On board. At house parties that they went to in Washington, D.C., in that area in the early 80s, to quote unquote, allow a train of men to gang rape them.
Wow.
They targeted women, not just Brett Kavanaugh, and that this was not a one-time thing, that they did this on more than one occasion, that is what they did. A pattern of abuse where not only Kavanaugh, but his friend, Mark Judge, and probably others, whom they will be calling as witnesses, participated in targeting of women with alcohol and drugs at house parties in Washington, D.C. area in the early 80s in order to allow a train of men to gang rape them.
Wow.
Now we're talking about gang rapes. That is what this new allegation is bringing to the table.
Wow.
Avenatti replied that he was aware of significant evidence. So he's already looked at the evidence for him to say this. Mm-hmm. There's significant evidence of Kavanaugh and Mark Judge doing this. And he also said Senate investigators should be posing he's like, here's some questions you may want to ask of Judge Kavanaugh. Mm-hmm. Here's some things you should ask him without delay and provide the answers that he gives to the American people. And then he listed detailed questions, including, did you ever target one or more women for sex or rape at a house party?
Wow.
Did you ever assist Mark Judge or others in doing targeting of women for sex or rape at house parties? On Monday, he posted further information that his new client also had worked at the State Department. Don't come for these white ladies.
Wow.
Do not come for these white ladies, Brett Kavanaugh and GOP Senate Majority leaders. Do not come for these women, members of Congress, that are trying to get this man rammed through the confirmation process, because it's not going to be pretty. These women do not have any F's to give. Mm-hmm. They are fresh out of them, and they are going full bore on this confirmation process. And so here's what he is saying. He acknowledged that the list of, she didn't just work at the U.S. State Department. She also worked at the U.S. Mint and the Department of Justice.
Oh, boy.
What? Yes. Don't come for the... I'm telling you. I am telling you. And she had been granted multiple security clearances for the U.S. government in the past.
Oh, boy.
Are you going to lie on this woman, Brett Kavanaugh? Is this the woman you're going to lie on? I think this is the woman he's going to trip and fall over.
Yep.
The first two may not have stuck, but oh my God. These couple last ones are going to choke the whole effing party right before the midterm elections, and it is going to be an explosion. It might just take down the whole Republican Party in the process. That's what they're going for here.
Yeah.
You're playing for all the marbles. You might just lose all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the GOP, he said, and others better be very careful in trying to suggest that she is not a credible witness, added Avenatti.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Wow.
Did you hear that? He's like, y'all better be careful trying to say this woman.
Yeah.
Told you. When I saw Kavanaugh, I said, "Oh dear God!
Yep.
Oh no, they are in trouble up in that Capitol Hill. They are in so much trouble. Y'all better watch out. Avenatti's coming." Now, Avenatti has acknowledged that there are a list of details, questions, and various aspects of the alleged misconduct which he thinks the committee should ask Kavanaugh. Most noticeably, he said they are very pointed. The questions are because they are designed to elicit answers that go directly to the facts. And he's a lawyer.
Yeah.
He should know.
Yep.
Now, I want to share with you these tweets. One is Avenatti's other tweet about what he sent to Mike Davis, the chief counsel for the nomination committee for the U.S. Senate Committee of the Judiciary. And he says, my email moments ago, and then he lists the email below. Mm-hmm. He said, we demand that this process be thorough, open, and fair, which is what the American people, which is what the American public deserves. It must not be rushed, and evidence and witnesses must not be hidden. And then he posted the email he sent to Mike Davis, the chief committee of the judiciary. He said, can you move that down a little bit? Dear Mr. Davis, thank you for your email. We are aware of significant evidence of multiple house parties in Washington, D.C. area during the 1980s, during which Brett Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, and others would participate in the targeting of women with alcohol or drugs in order to allow a train, quote unquote, of men to subsequently gang rape them.
Wow.
There are multiple witnesses that will corroborate these facts, and each of them must be called to testify publicly.
Wow.
As a starting point, Seattle
Senate investigators should pose the following questions to Judge Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Those letters are kind of little.
Without delay, and provide the answers to the American people. Did you ever target one or more women for sex or rape at a house party? Did you ever assist Mark Judge or others in doing so? Did you ever attend any house party during which a woman was gang raped or used for sex by multiple men? Did you ever witness a line of men outside a bedroom at any house party where you understood a woman was in the bedroom being raped or taken advantage of? Did you ever participate in any sexual conduct with a woman at a house party whom you understood to be intoxicated or under the influence of drugs? Did you ever communicate with Mark Judge or anyone else about your participation in a train involving an intoxicated woman? Did you ever object or attempt to prevent one or more men from participating in the rape or taking advantage of a woman at any house party? Please note that we will provide additional evidence relating to the above conduct, both to the committee and the American public in the coming days.
It's coming.
Regards, Michael Avenatti.
Oh, shoot.
Wow.
And what does it say down there at the bottom? Because it looks like Mike Davis sent him a message first.
According to your tweet from 7:33 p.m. Eastern Time this evening, you claim to have information you consider credible regarding Judge Kavanaugh and Mark Judge. Please advise of the information immediately to the Senate investigation. Investigators may promptly begin an inquiry. So he basically answered them. I don't know if this is the reply before the sentence or before the email. I'm not quite sure. But, he just said basically provide this information for the committee. So, yeah, there is, these are really, really direct questions. And I also noticed that Mark Judge is highlighted and focused on more than Kavanaugh. I'm just wondering what that's all about, and Mark Judge, I remember, he basically said he didn't have anything to say. He said that I don't want to. I don't want to testify. I don't want to. And so far, the committee has not been willing to issue any subpoenas on any of this.
No, and they've been giving him some softball questions and just keeping it nice and easy for Mr. Kavanaugh to be confirmed as soon as possible. I just don't see how they get around it at this point, Duke. I mean, there's 4 women that have now come forward, and there's probably more than that. You know that.
Yeah, and I think having Avenatti there, and then him actually firing these questions like they are, and demanding to have this all happen on Thursday. I think he's also working the legal angle. I don't know what happens if Congress breaks their own rules. Can you sue them? Can you sue Congress? Can you have damages from Congress?
Can you sue the government? Of course you can.
You know, I think that he's also doing a a well-grounded potential lawsuit, and to protect these women. And he's saying, let them testify. And he's going to bring evidence forward. He's going to cause quite a reaction that the committee's going to then want to have lawyers for cross-examination. It's going to turn into a courtroom, which it should. It should. This is the government having a hearing. But again, since they have a lack of
they
processes.
They want to keep it informal because they don't want to be held accountable to a standard of court.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think they want that to happen. But, these women have every right to be represented by counsel, especially with the treatment that they're getting from the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
They haven't been treated very nicely. I don't see how there's been any improvement. I would say that the women that have come forward thus far have gotten worse treatment than Anita Hill did 20-some years ago. Or 30, how many years ago was that?
I don't know, a long time ago.
It was like in 84 or 85,
Yep.
so many years ago.
Yeah.
And the 4th woman to testify against Kavanaugh is now in Maryland speaking to authorities.
Oh, wow.
This, according to an article in Alternet. So even as people are still reeling from Avenatti's new information about serial rapist Kavanaugh and his buddy Mark Judge and possibly others setting women up to be gang raped by their buddies at various house parties in Washington, D.C., new allegations have come forth that a 4th victim exists. According to a statement, the department stands ready to investigate any claim of sexual assault that is alleged to have occurred within their county. Montgomery County Police Department said on Monday after they received a request to investigate Brett Kavanaugh.
Wow.
Whoa!
Went to the police.
So
here's your police report.
You want a police report? Somebody is working on that as we speak.
Yeah.
What will all of the naysayers and rape apologists say of this? Every time one of their requests is met, or one of the people that one of the things that they claim needs to happen for these women to even be heard happens, they come up with a new reason why they will not allow the process to go forward and the investigations to be done. They always have a new reason because they don't want women to be heard, period.
Exactly.
So this is from the Montgomery County Sentinel reporting an update to their original piece. They said that they spoke about the investigation on background. And what that means is that they're having a conversation anonymously with the person at this time. So the person has not, the person and the story have not become public.
Yeah.
Because they're still, 1, investigating, and 2, checking out the authenticity of the claim.
Right.
But what it tells you that they're publishing a story about it at all is that they've already vetted some of this enough to say, okay, this is a credible claim.
Yeah.
We need to let you know. While they're still working on it, but this is what they got on background. They said, the letter came after additional allegations against Kavanaugh surfaced this weekend from his time in college and in high school. Government investigators confirmed Monday that they are aware of a potential second sexual assault complaint in the county, that county.
Wow. To make 5.
Against former Georgetown prep student and Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. The investigators, this is what the investigators in this county in Montgomery in Maryland are saying about their current investigation of this woman who remains anonymous in this county. That they confirmed Monday they're aware of a potential second.
Yep.
Are you keeping track?
Yep, that's 6.
While investigators weren't specific and spoke on background, they said they are looking into allegations made against Kavanaugh during his senior year in high school after an anonymous witness voluntarily came forward to speak with them this weekend. So on Monday, the Montgomery Sentinel reported the authorities in Montgomery County were looking into a fourth potential allegation of assault against at the hands of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. And quoted, they said, while investigators weren't specific and spoke on background, they said they are looking into allegations against Kavanaugh during his second year in high school. So this alternate article is saying that the Sentinel, the Montgomery County Sentinel updated their original story about this fourth person with a fifth.
Yeah.
That they're investigating as well. Okay? Just to keep track.
Okay.
Not 6, 5.
Yep, 5.
Okay.
I miscounted.
Yeah, we don't want to keep, don't lose track. I know it's getting to be so many, you're going to start counting, but listen. So, we have Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, Deborah Ramirez, a third accuser that claims that she has information and witnesses and evidence, strong evidence that there's a whole gang raping scenario that Kavanaugh was involved in. And now we have this.
Yeah. 2
investigations of sexual assault in Montgomery County. Next, I wanted to show you, what is at stake here? Because I believe that we all know that what we've been talking about, what I've been getting at this entire show is, how is it possible that they can keep ignoring this? Why is it still not enough? Why is the evidence, the number of women, the allegations, why is none of it enough to make them stop and consider that this is not a good nominee? Not the polls that show that he has the lowest approval rating of any nominee in history, not the fact that this is the Me Too movement time and that women are, if not being supported by the media and the justice system, they are supporting at least each other and believing each other more. And we have seen that comes with consequences. There are more women in Congress now than ever that have run in recent memory. And yet we keep going back to the conversation about, hey, do you think that this will mean anything? And it feels like no. Well, there's a reason why. And I think that for all the conspiracy theories that Trump believes, this is a real one. And this one was posted by the Horse Whisperer on Twitter. The Horse Whisperer says, people, relax. It's not like a major political party engaged in a large-scale effort to put an accused rapist on the highest court in the land before the public could discover the depths of their depravity solely to strip women of their bodily autonomy and to protect a corrupt president. I would say treasonous, but yes, you're right. And the thing is, that's exactly what I believe is happening. And I don't understand why Democrats, especially, aren't just talking about it in its purest form. Why aren't we discussing what is really at stake and what is really behind all of this negation of very credible women, of very important investigations that need to be done, of somebody that clearly doesn't have a good approval rating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for some reason, here we go, still with, keep plowing through, as was it Mitch McConnell said? Yep. We're just going to keep plowing through.
Get her done.
I think it's because the GOP is conspiring at this time to do this thing so they can keep this president in office and they can get rid of the Mueller investigation and they can make sure to protect their own hides.
Yeah.
Because, as I learned earlier today in an article that is circulating on the interwebs, I don't have the link to share with you, but I did see this. Russian oligarch money travels throughout Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. And it didn't just flow into the pockets of Donald Trump and Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort and others on the Trump administration payroll to Russia. It also flows into the coffers of people like Mitch McConnell and others that are on this Senate Judiciary Committee.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So one of the things that I said to you, Duke, was that this house of cards would begin to crumble when people in Congress needed to stop the bleeding before it got to them. Before Mueller's investigation reached all the way to them and how they've been complicit and involved. Because when there's a free-for-all and people are taking money left and right and getting rich, it don't matter what it is, whether it's oil or Russian oligarch money, selling your country, selling your mama, privatizing the schools. They don't care. They're going to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that Trump is not the only one that has blood on his hands, as it were. And I think that's one of the reasons they're trying to play this Brett Kavanaugh do-si-do. They're trying to slip him in there, slide him in here, forcefully shove him down our throats. In essence, rape the country with Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court so that they can ensure their hides aren't on the chopping block next. And that's something that we're not talking about in this country. But I think we should be. I think we should start looking and squeezing each one of these Senate Judiciary Committee members for why they personally should recuse themselves from this vote on Brett Kavanaugh because of the dealings that they have to protect, because of the conflict of interests that they have in nominating a Supreme Court nominee that could keep them from going to jail, in addition to Trump going to jail.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people out there squealing and squawking, oh, no, if Brett Kavanaugh has to have this kind of scrutiny on him, no one will ever be confirmed as a SCOTUS again. Here is Representative King of Iowa. This man is somebody that I'm embarrassed to call part of the representation of my former state in Iowa because he has been shown to be so cruel in his immigration policies and his rhetoric. And also because of his racist comments and his sexist comments. This guy is, retweeting white nationalists and all sorts of nasty things. And now King is saying that no man will ever qualify for the Supreme Court if Kavanaugh's allegations are the new standard for how we deal with these things.
Well,
they do.
He's probably right. And we should take that in consideration.
Okay.
That they're bringing rapey men and men that have a past that's not good, and he's probably right, because also, these nominations just don't come out of anywhere. They're chosen nominations. Of course, it's supposed to be the prerogative of the president, but behind the president are these groups of people who, in Kavanaugh, was not one of the top picks, and they're looking at all these 50 or so potential nominees. So it's like he's being chosen, like you said, from reasons behind the scenes that we aren't privy to at this time. But I think that's also a bizarre statement because it's also it's excusing behavior. It's also trying to normalize behavior.
Criminal behavior.
And it's saying that it's okay. It's okay. Geez, if you're going to apply that sort of standard, no one could do anything.
Criminal behavior, immoral behavior. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Because conservatives are the moral ones, right?
Yeah.
Conservatives are the Bible believing, the law and order types of folks, or so they claim. But in truth, when you press them, you see the hypocrisy behind what they're saying, because they want to claim that we need to hold people to this standard of law and order, but they also want to claim that some people are more deserving of rights and more equal than other people. In other words, some people are above the law, like themselves and the president.
Yeah.
Now, this is the quote from Representative Stephen King, who on Saturday called the allegations of against Brett Kavanaugh, character assassination. This is what King said. He said that if all male Supreme Court nominees were held to the same standard as Brett Kavanaugh, then none would ever get confirmed. So, see, I thought it was not all men. Weren't they saying hashtag not all men? Weren't the conservative men saying not all men? Mm-hmm. And now he's saying all men? Yeah. Nobody could ever get confirmed? Which is it? This is him again. I'm thinking, is there any man in this room that wouldn't be subject to such an allegation? He's admitting it.
Yep.
All men? You think all men rape? Maybe all the ones you hang around.
Mm-hmm.
He said, a false allegation? King said at the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition.
Oh.
The Fall Family Banquet, according to the Des Moines Register. This is the same guy that in recent months has reposted a neo-Nazi and a white nationalist on his Twitter account. And you know what? He didn't have any consequences from the Republican Party, not from at the state level, not at the national level. You know, his voters, the people that support this man, the people that support this type of behavior and don't punish our legislators in any way or sanction them in any way or shame them publicly in any way for their actions. Both his followers are also responsible for these attacks on sexual assault victims and these kinds of rape apologist behaviors in particular from him, because they didn't, ever punish him for his, behaviors in the past.
Yeah.
So again, I think we need to hold these people accountable for what they say. And there's an incredible amount of tantrum throwing and crying and, defense mechanisms that come up in men, to almost a ridiculous point. It's as if they are now trying to turn the tables and make themselves into the victim.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a tweet about men's fears by Julius the Goat.
The Goat.
At Julius Goat. He said, here's the conversation between men and women. He says, women say, we live in a constant state of vigilance because men pose a constant threat to us. Here are literally millions of corroborating stories. This is an epidemic for us, women say. And men say, what a scary time for men this is. We're so terrified right now.
Yeah.
Why are men so scared when we're the ones being killed and assaulted by men all the time? Could you please explain that to me,
Because we're the perpetrators of it. Perpetrators.
How is that scary for you then? We're the ones
it shouldn't
dying
be
from it?
to be held accountable. To be held accountable and have...
It's more scary to be held accountable than to kill and rape women?
That's what I'm seeing on comments like that.
Wow.
It's they want to be held accountable, and then they're the victims, and that's why women don't come forward and try to protect them, because they've actually bought into it, because they're gleaning some sort of power from them. So,
well, I have a question for you. If cops that are afraid for their lives because a black or a brown person is standing near them holding a phone or not even holding anything at all, and they can use that as an excuse to kill, are men being afraid of women accusing them of rape licensed to rape?
Well, and that's our logic. That's what they're shooting for.
Licensed to rape.
Licensed to rape.
Be very clear on this, folks. This is what the rape apologists want. They want the right to rape. They want the right to rape, and they don't want to have to apologize for it, like the president. He's a rapist.
Yeah.
And he's a serial sexual assaulter who's bragged about it. You've heard it on national television. He brags about it. And I'm sure that as the people that defended it as locker room talk would tell you, a lot of other men do the same thing. And they want the right to continue to do that. That's what we need to put a stop to right now. So I wanted to go through some of these stories and have a conversation about them. Okay? Right. Here are some of the posts that women responded to the president and others with the hashtag why I didn't report.
Yeah.
The first one says, would you read that, Duke?
My mom did report my 18-year-old cousin when I was 9. I had to testify sitting across a table from him. I froze and cried, couldn't speak. All charges were dropped. He moved in with his girlfriend 3 houses away. I had to walk to the bus station and see him every day. Well,
Your comment?
well, it sounds like she reported it, and then she had repercussions that she had to. And charges were dropped. It didn't do any good. She went through all this, and she was continually traumatized and had to continually be around that person because the person didn't have any consequences, wasn't held to any consequences, and then she had to be kind of traumatized every day. And she was only 9 years old when she reported this, and her cousin was 18 years old and living down the street.
And he had no consequences.
No.
We all have experienced one of these stories as women. What this country doesn't realize, what the media doesn't realize, what the president doesn't realize, what the Senate Judiciary Committee doesn't realize is that every time that you attack one of these victims, you attack all of the victims of rape and sexual assault. You re-traumatize every single woman that has ever been called a slut or a nut. You demean every woman that has ever come forward with fear of retaliation, and you're forcing every single woman that's ever been assaulted to relive her rape, her abuse, and that's a form of abuse and gaslighting that is being perpetrated on us, not only by the president, but by the people on this committee for the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh and within the media. And I hope that folks out there realize what they're doing, because you are doing this to all of the women that have been victims of sexual assault and abuse.
Yeah.
And that is not okay.
No.
That is beyond tone deaf, especially if you know you're doing it. And folks, the most important thing I can tell you to do is when you hear someone being a rape apologist, don't just tell them that you know that most rape apologists also rape, and that most rape apologists are enablers, and that's what you see in them now because they're telling you about it. Make sure to tell them that they're also abusing and re-victimizing all of the victims of sexual assault and rape. Every time they repeat that, and that is abusive and harmful, and that you, for one, are not going to allow that kind of hate speech and abuse of women and hatred of women to be spoken around you. Don't let it around you and the people you care about. Stand up for women that way. If you hear it, shame them, shun them, and shut them down.
Oh, yeah.
Let them know that there are consequences, at least at the level of you. You hold them accountable. Here's another one. This one says, because when I was 4, I did report. It went to trial, and I broke down on the stand testifying against my own father while his lawyer called me a liar. He was not convicted. Every time I was assaulted after that, I knew there was no point. Hashtag why I didn't report ever again. This is the second one we've read.
Yeah.
Both of these, which they're posted with the hashtag why I didn't report. Mm-hmm. They're telling you why they didn't report all the subsequent rapes
exactly.
that they experienced
because
as
of one
women,
they did report. Yeah.
Most women don't experience one sexual assault in their lifetimes. Their lifetime is full of sexual assaults. That's how that goes.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, your life is full of sexual assaults and sexualizations from the moment that you're born until the moment that you die. And you have zero power and zero agency over your own body, especially at the governmental level, where you have all of these rich white men in Congress wanting to decide at every step what we do with our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And men don't have any of those kinds of controls over their reproductive lives or their, rearing or their careering lives.
Yep.
Here's another one. This one says, because I was 13 and he was a police officer.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Men in authority, but all men are in authority.
Yeah.
All men subjugate women. They trump in importance. It doesn't matter if it's a little boy, a teenage boy, an adult man, or an old man. There's a rape apologist excuse at every age for why the life of that little boy and his future is more important than the trauma of that little girl that he raped or sexually assaulted. Every single time. He's got his whole life ahead of him. He's just an idiot kid. He didn't know any better.
That's right.
He was a confused
He deserves
man.
a second.
He was having a midlife crisis. He didn't know what he was doing.
We all make
He's
mistakes.
too set in his ways. That's just the way they treated women, He doesn't know no better. Locker room talk.
Yep.
Boys will be boys. Men will be men. Rapey people will be rapey people. Nothing can be done. Let's just throw up our arms and shrug. Here's another one. Why I didn't report. Because I was 7 and he was my best friend's dad. And he was a policeman. And he showed me his gun. I was always misbehaving at home. And I knew it was just one more thing I would get in trouble for. It took me 40 years to finally talk about it with a therapist. A life damaged.
Wow.
Yeah. And most women have had their life damaged in this way. I didn't realize because, I went to therapy when I was a kid, as long as I was able to afford to go to therapy. And then I went away to college and I thought, I've talked about my sexual abuse and some of them at least. So therapy's therapy, right? Like, I think I remember one of the times I was in therapy that I felt the most empowered. And it was when my therapist, as I was telling one of the stories of abuse, and I guess I must have looked ashamed to tell the story or felt ashamed to tell the story. And she said, why would you feel ashamed of talking about something that you didn't do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't sexually assault someone. You were the victim. Everything that you did led you to being alive and in therapy now. So you survived, which means you did everything right. They should be ashamed of what they did to you. Yeah. They're the criminals. You should never be ashamed of telling your story as a survivor. Yeah. They should be ashamed of what they did. And that empowered me so much because I thought, that's true. Yeah. I should be able to walk around this world and tell everyone, oh yeah, my cousin, he sexually molested me. Yeah. And that guy, him too. That was one of my dad's friends. He sexually abused me too. He sexually assaulted me. I don't care about their reputation or whether or not they grew up. And I've told you the names and showed you the faces and told you the places of the attempted rapes of people that assaulted me in high school. And, one of those people that I shared with you attempted to rape me in high school. As an adult, tried to message me when he had an attack of conscience and wanted to clear his conscience and feel better about what he had done. And I chose to deal with it in my own way. But other than that, I don't think a single man in my life has ever apologized or taken any kind of accountability or even really had an accurate and representational punishment, if any at all, for what they did. Wow. So the message that I knew was that men are predators and you there's nothing you can do to protect yourself from their constant attacks. And once they've hurt you, there's nothing you can do to make them pay for it. There's no repercussion and there's no support for you. So it's no wonder that I started having problems in college. But when I was in college And I was having panic attacks, and I was having, breaking out into hives and having these horrible attacks of panic where I was paralyzed and couldn't even move, and felt this intense sense of dread, like somebody was going to lower themselves on top of me. I felt a body lowering itself on top, and I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't talk. I started going to therapy again. I said, I don't know what's wrong with me. And then I started talking about what had happened, and they said, oh, well, that explains it. That's why you're hypervigilant, because you've been sexually assaulted and raped so many times. You don't have a sense of feeling safe ever.
Yeah.
Your body is always like, even when you're trying to sleep, or you don't, you can look around you with all of your senses and go, yep, there's nobody here, I'm safe. But your body is so used to being assaulted and you're not being aware or ready or prepared for it, that it's like, oh no, you're going to try to sleep, but we're not going to sleep because you're going to possibly get raped or assaulted or attacked. And we can't trust you to keep us safe. So we're going to be hypervigilant all the time. Like my own body was out of whack and has still, shown signs of that retriggering, especially as we talk about all of this. So
yeah, for sure.
These are things that we have to think about and take into account when we're talking about sexual assault. And we have to have more compassion for the victims when we talk about why women don't report. You can be an adult like I was at that time in college and still have symptoms of something that happened to you that you thought you've already dealt with in therapy, but you definitely have not, and that you may not even know is manifesting in your own body.
Wow.
This happens to women all the time. Sometimes it can take the rest of your life in therapy so that you can cope with what's been done to your body and what's been done to your mind. These are violent sexual assaults. Here's another post. Because he led me in prayer to beg forgiveness after.
Wow.
So this was done by a clergy. And how many of those stories do we have?
Lots of stories.
And and by the way, all of these people that keep saying, "Oh, it happened so many years ago." What about all of the kids that were abused by clergy as children?
Exactly.
So of course, none of them can be said to have any credibility because it happened to them as children.
Time ago, yeah.
So you know what? That's an announcement by all of the people in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and an announcement by the people that are rape apologists that are saying it happened too many years ago to be credible. They're basically putting out a neon sign that they think pedophilia is the way to go. I mean, if you're going to sexually assault someone, make sure it's a child because they can never be found credible or even thought of or looked upon as credible. So make sure you rape a child.
Oh,
that's what they're advertising for, dude.
That's true.
That's what they're advocating. And here's another one. This one is by a Democratic candidate, and she wrote, "Why I didn't report? Because in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, females were never believed, and reporting it was like being re-violated again." Yeah, I would argue that hasn't changed at any period of time in history.
Yeah, keep on adding decades to those numbers.
Yeah, before and after. I've never heard of a time when women have felt like it was safe for them to come forward without retaliation, and that the judicial system would adequately punish their assailants. Never. That's never happened. Yeah. Here is another one. It says, I did report here. Look how many of these women actually reported.
Yep.
For all of the people out there that say, where's the police report? It doesn't matter. I hope you get that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Because so many women do report it, and it doesn't matter. It says he had 2 witnesses on his side, and they wouldn't allow me to have a witness. 2 watched the assault happen.
Wow.
It was dismissed. I was 11 years old. When I was raped again at age 20, I didn't bother saying anything. It didn't matter the first time.
Why now?
Wow. Again and again and again, you hear women say, I reported it. No one did anything about it. I had no positive result from my first time reporting it, so I didn't bother reporting it ever again.
Didn't do any good.
Oh, no. And let me tell you, as a victim of sexual assault and rape, I reported many of the sexual assaults and rape, not only to school authorities, clergy members, friends, and family. And I was a child at the time. I was made to pay a very deep, painful price. Isolation, exclusion, backlash, more aggravated, violent attacks from my assailants, abuse, and violent punishments from members of my family, and so on, such that I got the message real crystal clear. Don't ever try to report abuse again.
Yeah.
Next time we might kill you.
Wow.
Here's another one. And I think that message is very clearly heard by all women in America and in the world, because we all know, we don't have to have discussions about this. Many women will tell you they would rather die than have to go through the process that's going to re-victimize them, put them right back in the spot where they were raped. If it's taken them a long time to get to the point where they can cope with life again after the trauma, this is going to send them right back down into the toilet.
Wow.
And they're asked to do that for no good outcome 99% of the time. That is abuse.
Yep.
That is a form of abuse. Beth Nelson wrote, because he was the teacher and I was the awkward teen who didn't even have friends to eat lunch with. And what would be the point anyway?
Wow.
And, again, this speaks to authority, but it also speaks to isolation and isolation of women who know that in many occasions, they're not just going to lose all of their friendships. They're going to be isolated even from their assailant, whose oversight they continue to need.
Yeah.
As in the case of a priest or a teacher being
yeah.
the abuser or a police officer.
Yep.
It isn't like they lose their job. They continue to have oversight over you. Next. And then, of course, if you report them, you've antagonized them, and now you have made them your enemy. And they're not in jail, so they can retaliate against you. So, no good outcome for you. Here's another reason. Because we are in college, and I care more about not effing up his life than my own life.
Oh, yeah.
This is a woman telling you what we as women have been indoctrinated with from birth. Your life is less valuable than that of a man. He is more important. He matters.
Than me.
You don't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
So this woman has internalized that, and she says, because... And I think that it also speaks to the idea of knowing that there's going to be a backlash where people are going to tell them, is your life really more valuable than his? And she's gone, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's another one. This is the last one I'm going to share with you. Why I didn't report. I was a teenager and he was older with 2 kids.
Oh.
It's how I lost my virginity and became pregnant. I had a history of mental illness, so no one ever believed me. My parents didn't even believe me. They thought I was being dramatic.
Wow.
So, don't be a person that has a vagina, and don't be a person that ever has a disability or a mental illness or a child. Any of those things disqualify you from being believed when rape and sexual assault come into play. And they shouldn't. The reality is that those are all excuses or rape apologies so that rapists can keep on raping. Yeah. Remember, rapists want the agency to keep on raping, and rape apologists want to give it to them.
Yeah. Want
to enable them to have it. So I wanted to show you some recent examples in our community, in our news, in our nation that perfectly exemplify what women face in this country, in this Me Too time, even during this Me Too movement, even during your Time's Up movement, and why we still continue to not report, and why we still continue to not believe in a justice system that fails us time and time and time and time and time again, especially women of color, little girls, the most vulnerable. Here's a story that is just disturbing beyond belief, and we want to pretend that we should just look the other way for the Supreme Court justice. It's no wonder that our country is so confused about whether or not sexual predators are somebody that we should have free and living in society with no consequences when we have the likes of this story. Here's a man named Justin Schneider who was convicted of strangling, it should say attempted murder, because he did dump her on the side of the road and left her for dead. He thought she was dead. So he wanted her to die. He attempted to kill her, and he sexually assaulted her, including masturbating to completion on her lifeless body.
Whoa.
He stopped her to pick her up. She was not hitchhiking, but she was walking by the side of the road, and he asked her if she wanted a ride, and this is a 34-year-old man, okay? She agreed to get in his car. And so this is a Native American woman. This happened in Alaska. Okay. As we know, killing and sexually assaulting Native American women and black women is something that is more accepted by men and by women and by people of every stripe and color generally, because, as I said at the top of the show, it was regularly accepted as a practice by slave owners. They could rape their property, and it was theirs to rape, right? Yeah. It's a very hard habit to break when you have, indoctrinated generations after generations and generations of white men to feel entitled to rape black and brown bodies, for them to suddenly go, oh, I can't do that no more? Really?
Yeah.
Is it any wonder that we were just reading an article the other day, Duke, in which I was telling you that it is routine practices for hospitals that have students learning at their hospitals to perform pelvic exams on unconscious women that are there for surgeries unrelated to anything having to do with the pelvic exam, just so that students can practice doing pelvic exams.
Yeah.
And by the way, 73% of medical students that are now doctors admitted that they performed pelvic exams on unconscious women during surgeries for unrelated things. And by the way, in this article, it also said that the majority of women asked if they would mind having a pelvic exam during the time that they were unconscious, if they were in surgery for whatever reason, said, hell yes, they would mind. They would consider that rape.
Say no.
They would consider that rape.
Yeah.
That's what they said, Duke, because that is rape. How frequently have we seen police officers anally and vaginally penetrating women and men to search them for contraband during routine traffic stops? People of color, of course, are the greatest victims of these types of crimes by officers during consciousness for these people. And nobody cares or says anything about it because the majority of people that it's being perpetrated on are people of color.
Yeah.
But women in general have always been seen as objects that you can grab and touch and do whatever the hell you want to and experiment on. In fact, the hospitals were asked, why would they simply not ask? Have you been to a doctor's appointment and the doctor will say, we got some students that are learning. Do you mind if they come in and watch us, take your stitches out or perform an operation on you? Or
many times.
Yeah. Have you said no ever?
No. Mainly because of stitches and stuff like that. But if they said they're gonna slice into you with a scalpel, I'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe not.
They're not going to let the students do that supposedly, but they're supposedly not going to do that to the students. But they're supposedly going to watch to learn.
Yeah. Well, I've been in there, and I've been in the doctor's offices many times, and they bring in a student that's learning, and they'll sit and take notes, and sometimes ask questions, and it seems like a practice that I'm totally cool with, but not if I'm getting an operation and I'm under anesthesia and I'm knocked out. I don't want some new student practicing on me. Sometimes I don't even like them taking out stitches because they don't have the skill and it hurts. I've seen that happen with you.
Oh, I know. But do you know what they said? Do you know what they said the reason why they didn't ask women when they're conscious? Hey, we got a student here, and I know we're operating on your ear, but we'd like to check out your vagina while we have you out, if so he could practice, just get under the hood there, if that's okay with you. You know what the reason was that the hospitals gave most of the time as to why they don't ask for consent?
Because they'd say no. People would say no effing way.
Yes, but let me have a conversation with you about that. Yes, I believe that's part of it. That's what they claim. That's what they say. Because they don't believe that women would say yes. Because they know most women would say no.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the piece that's inferred that they don't talk about. What that means is that they wouldn't be able to practice pelvic exams on unconscious women, and the number of women that would consent to doing it with knowledge before their consciousness is gone would be very small, and there wouldn't be enough women for them to practice on, right? But that's not technically true, because I would be willing to bet any number of dollars that if you paid a woman to practice a pelvic exam on her so that doctors could practice, there would be women lining up around the corner to get, in on some kind. There's people selling their blood every day.
Yeah.
If women were paid so that they could have people practice pelvic exams on them while they were conscious, there would be a lot of women that would be happy to volunteer so that they could help other women have decent pelvic exams, especially if they were getting paid for it. But they don't want to pay women a fair value for the experience. And they don't want to tell them in case they screw it up. True. In fact, there were many reports that women had made of having pain, bleeding, and all sorts of complications of their uterus from a pelvic exam they suspect that they had for a surgery that was completely unrelated to anything in their vaginas or uteruses. So they were confused. Many of them requested medical records to prove that they weren't crazy. Like, was something done in my surgery that you didn't tell me about? And were either given redacted records where the hospital hid part of the medical records of a patient so that they couldn't sue the hospital for performing an illegal medical procedure on them, because they know what they're doing is raping women illegally. Do you get this?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you understand that this is common practice? So please, 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 please don't pee on my head and tell me it's raining when it comes to how we care about women or how women are equal in this country. We are not. We have never been. We don't even give the smallest modicum of respect or belief equal to men. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't do it for women in this country.
Yeah.
Here, back to this Justin Schneider article, let me just share with you, this guy got 0 jail time after he attempted to murder this Native American young woman and left her for dead on the side of the road.
Wow.
What justification can you give? Here, the woman not only reported it and submitted to a rape kit and went through the whole process of going through the court system, right? She nearly died.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
He left her for dead. She couldn't fight him off because he was too heavy, and he choked her. He was choking her to death. That is what she said. She lost consciousness. She thought she was going to die. That's what happened to her. That's attempted murder. When she woke up, she was covered in his semen. And he offered her a tissue to clean herself off.
Huh.
She ended up using it as evidence.
Yeah, good.
Schneider told the court that his life was being turned upside down by this incident. All he did was try to murder an indigenous woman and leave her for dead by the side of the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He called the situation a life sentence. He's going to lose his job as an air traffic controller.
Oh, okay.
See, he has an important job as an air traffic controller, and his future as an air traffic controller, not having raped a Native American woman, is far more important than the woman he tried to kill. You see?
Yep.
So when it came time for sentencing, he didn't get any jail time at all. The judge gave him credit for time served while he was staying with his family awaiting trial. He wasn't even required to register as a sex offender.
Wow.
When you do this, society, judicial system, you turn rape attempters into rapists and then murderers. When you don't punish people for the crimes that they commit, when they see that they are all powerful, they go crazy with the power. They think, wait a minute, I can pluck a woman off the side of the road, choke her out, and sexually assault her, rape her, and I won't get one single day in jail.
Yeah.
I don't have to register as a sex offender.
No.
It's like I got a free rape pass, and I get to keep my job.
Exactly.
Bonus!
Wow.
I should do that again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously he enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
The proof is in the Kleenex.
Yeah.
So he got away with rape. He got away with sexual assault. And by the way, the Alaska Department of Law that has come to the defense of the judge, saying, that it's unfortunate that he was misunderstood when during the sentencing he was said to have given Justin Schneider a pass. He literally said he gave him a pass because he didn't believe Schneider was going to commit another offense.
Oh.
I'm going to give you a pass because I don't think that you're going to be doing this again. I think you learned your lesson. You look mighty scared right now.
Yep.
And the people, the Alaska Department of Law came to the defense of this judge who said, you get a rape pass, son. Let me write you out a pass for raping. And they said that prosecutors were attempting to explain that while this sentence was lenient, the judge himself called it a pass.
Yeah.
They said it was consistent with current Alaska law and based on thorough review of facts in the case.
Boy.
You can excuse anything.
Yes.
See that?
Stay out of Alaska.
Literally anything. Anywhere.
Yeah.
Honey, you could do this anywhere. This stuff goes on everywhere, honey. Even here in Minnesota. Let me share with you one of the stories of Minnesota Republican Jim Knobloch ends his campaign ahead of the Minnesota Public Radio abuse allegation story, which was published. And I will give you the link. This happened on to be published September 21st. What his daughter alleges is that she was sexually assaulted by her father from the age of 9 to the age of 20. I think she is currently 23 years old.
Yeah.
And is living in Colorado as a triathlete and a student. he said, excuse me, that the allegations by his daughter were indescribably hurtful, and that he would try to work toward healing his family. He's the one that is hurt. He said, I love my children more than anything, and I would never do anything to hurt them. Her allegations are false. That is the most hurtful thing No Block could ever do. And he wasn't the only one that denied her allegations, destroying her, I'm sure. Her mother has also chosen to stand by the side of her accuser, as well as her own grandmother.
Wow.
Her father went on to say, I and other family members have made repeated attempts to reconcile with her in recent years, but she has refused. I don't blame her. I'm surprised that she survived the onslaught at such a young age of all of the snakes in her family, because that's what they are. These people are heartless, moralless snakes. This child claims that from the age of 9 on up, her father would do things as inappropriate as getting into bed with her, licking an open mouth with tongue, kissing her on the neck, and licking her neck. He ground his body into hers, pinned her up against the furniture, made her sit on his lap, and would hold her hands, hold her arms up above her head, kissing her in front of other family members, biting her ears. She reported it to a number of people, including her youth pastor, her family members, cousins, and the police. Because he didn't penetrate her with his penis, they said there wasn't anything they could do. Even Child Protective Services said that this does not rise to the level of a assault.
Wow.
Even though this girl, who is now going to, I'm sure, extensive therapy along with her boyfriend, because she keeps having flashbacks when she tries to have sexual encounters or intimate relations with her boyfriend. She keeps picturing her own dad when he's trying to kiss her, because this guy has put this in her brain. This is disgusting what this man has done. Not only did he deny it, his wife, he's isolated this child from her mother. That woman is despicable, I think, for doing this to her own child and choosing the man that abused her own flesh and blood. She chose to throw away her own child. That's not a mother. That's an animal. What kind? Even animals don't do that to their children. I don't understand how a woman could choose to do that, or the grandmother. This is a quote from her about the experiences she was having with her boyfriend. She said, I started dating someone and I was having all these flashbacks. And that was really what set me off to be like, maybe this wasn't something that wasn't just weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, my boyfriend kisses me and I'm thinking of my dad. That's weird. And then I started having these kind of nightmares about it, and I started working through it with my boyfriend at the time. The girl has PTSD from the sexual assault that she was subjected to her entire life almost. She's only 23 years old. And everybody in her family has ostracized her. Her mother usually shrugged it off, saying that Jim didn't grow up with sisters, Jim being her husband, and that he didn't know how to interact with girls. And every time she told someone, she was minimized, and she was dismissed, and she was ignored. She even reported it to the St. Cloud police, who again said that it did not rise to the level of a criminal anything, and refused to press any charges against him, as did Child Protective Services. And again, she told her pastor, she told her family members, she told everyone. And there's records of all of this. But they said it's inappropriate, yes. Criminal, no.
Okay.
Is it inappropriate? Does this traumatize you? Does this cause a sexual trauma to you? Yes, all of that, yes. Will we prosecute or punish anyone for it?
Nope.
Hell to the no.
Nope.
So tell me again, how many fiery hoops do women and children have to fly through in order to be believed and report an assault in this country? 1 million.
Yeah.
A million, a trillion. And they will never be enough for those who are rape apologists to be satisfied. So remember to believe women, support women, and shut down all of those rape apologists out there. Now you know, if you didn't know, what was really up with all of these allegations against Brett Kavanaugh and what's happening on Capitol Hill here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with Cindy Gomez-Schempp
And Duke Gomez-Schempp
on 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we're adding local color to your airwaves. And when we come back to our next show, we will keep reporting on some disaster vultures out there making money off of the misery of others. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for being with us tonight. Goodbye.